All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Welcome in. The REMINGTOM pod is live. We had to push back the start time a couple minutes because the Fast and Furious franchise is on Netflix. It's just what it is, but we're here now. And we're going to continue, of course, with our NFL rankings this week. On the last live stream we did Sunday night, we looked at and, talked through some of the quarterback stuff, kind of individually looking at those guys. But today we're going to maybe talk through some of the rest of the non-QB roster spots in the NFL, because I did say that this week was going to be NFL rank week, but I also forgot about how stacked of a hip hop week or hip hop day we're supposed to get Friday night. It's supposed to be, we're getting a couple albums on Friday night, make no mistake. So we're going to be definitely occupied focusing on those. So tonight we're just going to make sure that we definitely focus on the rest of the NFL ranking stuff as well too, and maybe look at some of the fantasy, from a fantasy lens as well a little bit. But we are going to have fired on in the background, of course. Last time, a big pivot from where we were at last time. Maybe this is sort of the cool off version. It's been a couple hours since then, but apparently, just in terms of live stream hours, we need to reset, because the last time we watched The Exorcist 3, so it was pretty intense. I'm not going to lie, I did have to go back and look up which scene was supposed to be the scariest scene. Not to say that there were scenes that were not scary. It's just like, again, the movie had enough good scenes that not one of them, and I'm not trying to say this in a this is in a good way that I'm saying this, is that they were all kind of standout scary-ish in a way. So they're the one that we had heard about that was like, this is going to be the reason to watch this movie. There's this all-time scariest scene. It did turn out to be the scene that's regarded as that scene. I guess, spoiler alert, if you hadn't seen The Exorcist 3 yet, or I guess if you hadn't seen the live stream yet, but the scariest scene in the zeitgeist is the hallway scene. We'll just say the hallway scene in the hospital with the nurse. And and I remember, when we were watching it, it's a very well-crafted scene. I think maybe the environment can kind of take away from the scare in this moment as well too. But it was good. It was a moment that I was internally thinking when it happened, when we were watching it live. I was like, I'm a little surprised I didn't jump more at this. Like, this was a jump scare. This definitely should have gotten us. Like, I'm a jump scare guy. If somebody's gonna jump scare, I'm like, oh, what's happening? But I feel like we powered through okay. And to be honest, the scene, of course, with the priest at the end up on the ceiling that's the look away scene. I don't know if that counts as the jump scare scene, but that is definitely the look away scene. So I don't know what the look away scenes are tonight. Hey, yo, chat. But we've got fired up, streaming right now on Amazon Prime. 20-year anniversary of Judd Apatow, Steve Carrell, iconic class. It's both chats, an iconic classic. Hey, yo, from, of course, like I was saying, 20 years ago, 2005. I guess I didn't realize that this was Apatow's first directorial one as well too, because you think of that whole era as well, and I guess Superbad is 2007, so that would be afterwards as well too. But this one does kind of get the critical acclaim as well, because I feel like Apatow in general, he is one of those guys that can kind of have the critical acclaim with a lot of the comedy stuff. Really in a way that I guess we haven't really seen a creator do since as well too, because we know, of course, what has happened to the studio comedy since then. But you think you have, like, you do have Kevin. I know we will give, like, just I guess I'm saying Apatow. Also the people from this era, Rogan, and they're doing separate things as well too. Like, you got to give everybody their own credit. But of course, we're talking about this era, but it was kind of specifically driven through those two guys as well too, in a big way, at least for the 2000s. And I guess, again, like we're saying, the reason that this era and these guys, it is significant, is because this is the last time that we were kind of getting the studio comedy in a big way as well too. And it's kind of tough because you get, with the way the culture is turning in the 90s as well, and you do obviously have some great cultural classic comedies in the 90s with movies like Friday and stuff, but I'm not, I have to go back and look at, like, what was the theatrical stuff going on for the time. And that movie's obviously beloved now. I don't know if that it was like a critically. I think if we looked up the Ebert score on that though, I think he might have liked that one. I'm not sure. But then you start to get into, of course, you get the rom-coms like Brown Sugar, and you have like Love and Basketball in 2000, and you start to see, of course, a different vein, like we're saying, also pop up in the early 2000s as well too. And then, unfortunately, none of this stuff is just able to really see what the versions of it for, at least the 2020. And maybe, I just need to be more aware of, because it does seem like, and I guess it just depends. Of course, the conversation will always be what is comedy now versus then. Of course, it was a little bit more, a little bit more. Is farce the right way to use that term as well too? I know that's like an old timey comedy term for like absurd type stuff, but I don't know if it's. I think it's the right way to use that. But again, it's a little bit more absurd, like crazy. Three Stooges, almost a little bit more old school, like taking it back to the, and again, they literally did have a movie called Old School as well too. Hey, why is it not popping up on the screen here, chat? I mean, I guess spoiler alert, it's not going to pop up for you guys for, on the background here, of course, because we didn't, unfortunately, the Rem and Sam pod did not acquire the rights to the 40-year-old version to be able to watch along with you guys. It is what it is. But, of course, like we did say, it is streaming on Amazon Prime. If you can, did you guys just hear the speaker disconnect in the background? Hey, now we're just like an old man, I was going to say thumbing through technology. Hey, pause. But trying to figure out how to get all this connected. Hey, will it not let us cast? That's crazy work, chat. Hey, it is what it is. Are we going to have to... We're going to have to figure out... I mean, we could get this up on the screen, chat. I guess we're just going to have to do it manually. Ayo, pause. Okay, we got to take a timeout, chat. We've got to get the 40-year-old version up on the big screen. Ayo, am I just going to sit here and watch it off my phone? During the live stream? Who knows? If worst comes to worst, I mean, we've all done that before. So, it is what it is. Chat, we set the record. The quickest break of all time. Okay, we'll be right back. Are we back? There we are. We're back, chat. I lied. We are going to be watching it on our phone. It is what it is. I thought maybe that cable I mean, I'm not going to say we took it from work because we definitely didn't do that, but it was left at work, and I guess, somehow it ended up in our possession. It is what it is. But, just so, hey, you have a nice meeting in the private dining room. If you leave a iPhone cable that looks nice, it just, it just so happens to not make its way to the lost and found. I'm not going to necessarily snitch on the guy that took it. Oh, wait a second. Was that me? But, I mean, well, it's just like a throwback to the good old days of the Rim and Sam pod, where when we first started doing the live stuff, I was secretly watching everything on my phone. So today, not so secret. And, I mean, if you do the math as well, too, like the TV's kind of like, ayo, pause, like that big, so you kind of measure it out, and, like, the phone from that distance is about, yeah, so, I mean, it worked. Ayo, again, pause. But we're cooking, chat. It'll be fine. So shout out, of course, again, I guess we got Apatow up on the background. Steve Carrell on screen first, the star of the movie. But, yeah, like we were saying, of course, the way that they're the absurdist, but then the way he was able to work some of the, the charming story into the comedies as well, too, is what ultimately makes them sort of rewatchable in the ways that they are today, especially for the people that were watching them, especially even younger as well too back then. But again, Steve Carell is the man for this movie, and I don't know if Steve Carell is, I was gonna say, number one funny guy of all time. Where do we start with the list? Hey, yo. But if you think about, especially in the, I think the problem would be maybe the overall sort of scope of the filmography as well. And maybe for some of the other guys that would have the sort of, and again, there is a critical acclaim to some of these comedies as well, but they still live in a different tier of movie versus, again, even Eddie Murphy has a role kind of like a Dolomite later in his career. Or what's the role that he won this, is Dreamgirls, Showgirls? I always forget the name. Which one is it, chat? Hey, yo. Which one is Eddie Murphy in from the 2000s with Beyonce? Hey, yo. But that's the problem, is you got Jennifer Hudson, Beyonce, and Eddie Murphy in a movie. You expect us to remember the name of this, the title of this film? Hey, yo, Chad, it's not going to happen. But, again, there is a sort of crossover into maybe, and not to say that, hey, Steve Carell can't do that. Obviously, he can. But the sort of film lineup to that, I feel like hasn't quite happened yet. I wonder what the awards are. I say, the TV thing, obviously, you imagine he was getting crazy nominated for what's the guy's name? Hey, Michael Scott. Shout out. But so we do have a Best Actor nomination for Foxcatcher in 2014. Biographical sports thriller. Hey, yo, chat. Do we need to add a Foxcatcher to the list? Wrestling enthusiasts? I was gonna say, why wouldn't we have watched a sports thriller movie? I guess a wrestling movie. We do, obviously, for the sports, we're going to be more interested in the sports movies for the sports that we're interested in. But, a sports movie in general would be fun as well, too. Tatum, Carrell, and Ruffalo can't be, obviously, a bad cast as well, too. I guess I'm kind of surprised that I haven't really heard about this as well, considering that there was just an Oscar nomination in general. Obviously, Steve Carell, again, just a crazy guy, but just crazy famous, crazy iconic. Shout out, we all love him, so we would assume that, like, oh yeah, the Steve Carell Oscar nom, I just have that locked into the memory. But again, just the film in general being like, oh yeah, 2014's Foxcatcher had a nomination in it for one of the performances. I guess got nominated at the Globes for Best Picture. Did it get Best Picture at the Academy as well too? The film was nominated for 5 Oscars: Best Actor, Best Supporting, Best Director. It became the first film to be nominated for Best Director, but not Best Picture since 2008, since Julian Schnabel in the Driving the Bell and the Butterfly. Hey, yo. Shout out our guy, Julian Schnabel. Hey, yo. So not in the, I guess everybody around the movie did well, but the movie itself was not good enough to get nominated for Best Picture. That is a little confusing. But shout out. It's incredibly well directed and incredibly well acted and well written, but just, kind of a mid movie I don't know what where the math works out for that. But uh, best ensemble cast, oh 06. Okay, little bit, and I guess best actor in a comedy, the Big Short as well too would be that one. He is, I guess maybe the case for, he is obviously great in that movie. It is a little Steve Carell in that movie, like he's kind of free to be a little bit more his guy, but he is a little bit more kind of again, Michael Scott's, the cornier comedy guy, and in that one he's more the hard-nosed work everybody, at nose to the grindstone type boss character in that one as well too. But I don't know if it is because of, again, the fact that it's Steve Carell in 2015 at that point. So that is a fun, I guess, like we're saying, that is a fun just actor run for him. I guess we'll actually go look. We should look at the filmography here to recall some of his runs. And I guess The Big Short, again, it's such a big ensemble cast as well too. And the thing is, everybody really does a great job in that movie. I'm trying to think, like, ooh, do we call him out, chat? Who would be the weak link of The Big Short? Hey, yo, I guess, again, I can't really think of one at this point. And I guess you do have the voice work of Gru as well too. So make no mistake, for the pocketbooks, obviously, Gru has been great for Steve Carell. It is, iconic. I think it is a great, and that is the weird thing. Again, you get Toy Stories, like 95 or late 90s at that point. So just the idea of animation in general. I mean, I guess you do have animation, of course, with some of the Disney stuff earlier on. But I guess the idea of that becoming a career for actors as well. And I don't know if, again, maybe do some research on Toy Story. How having Tom Hanks in the 90s helps elevate that kind of movie as well too. But then for it to be, again, like a real thing where if you land a role in a critical acclaimed, voice movie, it's, I guess, we're not necessarily saying it's one of those things that, like, the great Tom Hanks performances, but just in terms of the great Tom Hanks movies that you're watching, or the great actor, blank actor, it would bring up Eddie Murphy again, for a whole new generation. Like we're saying, he obviously had a animated part that was incredibly popular as well too in the Shrek films, that was able to keep his name high. And then, if you're just rewatching him, and just the amount of hours that a movie has been watched that Eddie Murphy is in, that one is probably, that one, if we looked at the stats, we'd be like, wait a second, Shrek, and I guess maybe stats per, watch time per year as well too, because again, it is newer, so overall watch time, again, and like the start of his career was as great as any point of his career. So the fact that, like, Beverly Hills Cop is like his third movie, just the fact that, that's had so much time to, Trading Places have had so much time to be watched, that maybe the career points is like, they're like, those are like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the, I guess LeBron, obviously, now shout out the number one guy, but Kareem was not necessarily the number one points per game guy, but had the all-time record. But anyways, like we were saying, so I guess maybe for him, Minions does, like we're saying, kind of just from a box office standpoint, I guess The Big Short was a pretty successful film. 133 though. Oh geez, was the first Minions like $1 billion? It was, Chad, 1.1. Hey yo, on a $74 million budget, which seems kind of high for a, I don't know what a typical animated film is here. What's Despicable Me 4? What's the budget go to? 100 million, I guess, but that's, again, 10 years later, so inflation, I don't know, that feels maybe still kind of on par for what you got. But maybe The Big Short, and maybe the comedies like this as well too, do show where Steve Carell is at his best. Because even in The Office, like, he does do, obviously, a ton, I guess for me personally as well, a ton of heavy lifting in terms of the comedic value of the show. I mean, it is, again, hot take, The Office, obviously a very funny show, but to me, the rewatchability of that is, and maybe it is like, there are some parts of the show where the cringe, it's like, does the cringe factor of that outweigh the comedy of what else is going on, so, somewhere else? But Steve Carell, of course, overpowers everything, and you're just like, I honestly haven't even really seen, when I watched The Office, because of course I was catching up on it later, but when I watched it, I was just like, once Steve Carell leaves The Office, I'm done. There's literally no reason to watch The Office, and nobody's like, actually, they rebounded, and, I guess there are some beloved characters and beloved storylines, but it's like, it was more, here's the gems of the episodes throughout the course of the season. And again, I was The Office was obviously a really funny show, but I guess I wasn't necessarily so locked into The Office that, like I'm saying, I had to keep watching the rest of the characters outside of Steve Carell at that point. Honestly, my second favorite character in The Office is, besides Steve Carell, is probably Creed. And Creed's in The Office for like 13 minutes for the entirety of the season, so entirety of the series. So it's like, okay, this kind of shows where we're at with it, I guess. But like we're saying, that is still a pretty big. It's an ensemble kind of sitcom, even compared to the other sitcoms that came before it. In the era that it's appearing in is that type of sitcom era, and then we do get, of course, like Modern Family and stuff continues on. I mean, Modern Family, of course, probably. I guess I'm not calling it the last great sitcom because, of course, we do have like Abbott Elementary now as well too, is really good. But I don't know if it. And I guess maybe just in terms of but it is pretty popular as well too. So I guess I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the rest of the shows as well. I don't know if I could say because we have one show, it's in a resurgence, or again, it's like, hey, shout out, we just have a really great version of the show now as well too. But like we're saying, he was maybe a little bit better when he was kind of surrounded by these type of guys, or a little bit stronger of a cast as well too. Because some of the individual movies maybe don't quite hit the same type of way some of the individuals. Even like we're saying Foxcatcher, even that's with Channing Tatum and Ruffalo and himself included would make it the big three. But again, when he's in the ensemble, he is elevated even in an extra type of way, where he's not just like we're saying the best, where you're looking at it going, oh, he's the best guy in an ensemble. And the thing about these ensembles, again, they're so high powered that the individual people in them do stand out in a way. But in terms of the roles that they're playing in these type of movies, where you get him in this, and then when he's more of a lead role in Crazy Stupid Love as well too, he just stands out in a way that is really crazy. And that's even with Gosling, and Gosling's obviously crazy charming and is playing a part in that movie where that's what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be the extra, just over the top, just so much charisma and charm that everybody just can't resist Ryan Gosling in that movie, and it's crazy. And he's got to, of course, help make over the Steve Carell character. But from a comedic actor, what the person in their role is supposed to be accomplishing on screen, like Steve Carell, again, and Gosling is as good as the charming guy in any type of role, like, that we have from even the 2000s, I guess even still now as well too. But, even then, it may be a little bit younger as well too, a little bit of a little bit of a different era of it. I don't know, the incredible Burt Wonderstone, shout out. I guess, we're not necessarily highlighting that film right now, but, again, he is like comedically, and as that type of loser, quote unquote guy that Carrell is playing in that movie, he is playing that, he's playing the loser role. Ayo, shout out. But again, the comedic value of it as well. Like we all know, like he's playing that as well as Gosling is playing the charming guy, and his comedic value in this type of movie stands out in a great way. And you do have him as more of a sidekick character in the Anchorman films. So those are another of those crazy comedies from the era that he's not necessarily his comedic value, again, it does stand out, but it's not necessarily he's overpowering the film in the same way that it is here. Like you could maybe say that does Paul Rudd have some funnier moments in Anchorman in terms of just a bit part guy in that movie than Steve Carell. But still, like we're saying, that is another movie where Will Ferrell is the main guy in that movie, and his just the overall comedic presence in that movie is, of course, really powerful. And he's maybe, arguably the best comedic guy of this era as well too. So the fact that Carrell is maybe the other guy that can sort of stand out in that type of way is really great. And I guess Jonah Hill does really steal the show in Superbad as well too, if we're going for that sort of Rogan Apatow verse. But like Pineapple Express is definitely, that one feels a little bit more balanced in terms of and that one doesn't quite have that one doesn't have like Farrell or again like Carrell or I guess you're putting Seth Rogen, of course, in the A+ lister of comedy guy. I don't know if he quite goes in the sort of the films that he's in, of course, but the film role himself, if he's quite in that Farrell Carrell level. But maybe those are sort of the two guys from this universe that stand out in that type of way. Because I think, again, Paul Rudd, there is versions where you see, not in the Apatow universe, but you see him, of course, in like Ant-Man, him carrying different types of films as well too, not just action films, but I mean that's even a comedy focused action film. So you see him carrying comedies, of course, in that type of way. But I think, again, Paul Rudd is maybe a little bit better as the second or the third best guy in the movie or the show versus, again, Carrell, if the ensemble cast is there, and even if it's, not, but if it is there as well, too, he can carry the film in an extra way that these comedic guys can't. And I was thinking about that from the comedic guy sort of rom-com aspect of it as well, too, because this is not one of the few comedies, because I guess you do, there's actually a bunch where you get, like, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Knocked Up, where you do kind of have them fall into the rom-com line as well, too. But I think Carrell is just extra good as as the guy in those type of roles. And is a little bit unique. Again, you do have this era in the films that these guys are making kind of emerging of those type of down on their luck guy type characters, but there is also, again, the McConaughey, the Richard Gere, the Taye Diggs, just the cool, the Ryan Gosling, like we're saying, the guy that he's going to compete against in, from an acting standpoint in Crazy Stupid Love, in that movie, where it's more the traditional kind of charming, kind of everything's going for him in a way type of rom-com lead. But the guy that is the down on his luck type guy, to maybe do it across the multiple the multiple films as well too, because I think, again, like you have is it Jason Segel, Steven Seagal? What are the right ways to pronounce the names? Ayo, chat. But you have him in kind of the one movie. Again, he's had some good TV shows and some writings as well too. I guess what's the other one that he's in, chat, with Emily Blunt? Ayo, I'm forgetting the name of that one as well too. Pivot to our guy Jason Segal, I guess. Is he our guy, chat? I mean, he's had a pretty decent filmography. I guess, am I thinking? No, it's not. What is the one? I'm gonna know it right when I see it. The 5-Year Engagement? It's the 5-year. So I guess he does have the multiple films, chat. Hey, yo, the 5-Year Engagement. Shout out. Okay, we have to reconsider. But I was thinking of because I was thinking of looking up Steve Martin's filmography and double checking his movies, because I know he's played in that Nancy Meyer universe a little bit as well too. Oh, his discography, Joe. Okay, we meant his filmography, not his discography. Though, again, shout out to his discography, if that includes, obviously, some of the comedy albums and stuff, as well too. But he does seem like that guy that could, of course, play that down on the luck type guy. But he also could try to maybe turn around and be the charming guy, as well too, in a different way. Where, again, I'm not saying Carrell necessarily couldn't pull that off, but he's obviously, it does seem like the films that he is in, when they do kind of have that comedic way that they kind of stumble into their ending as well too, where, of course, like in this one, everything kind of works out for Steve Carell in the end, but of course there is sort of comedic value all the way through. So I guess, shout out to Steve Carell, shout out to the old 40-year-old version and the 20-year anniversary. We will be keeping that on in the background. And just shout out to Steve Martin as well too. The best comedic Steves of all time: Steve Martin, Steve Carell. I don't know how far we go down the rankings with that one, but I should mention, as we get into the NFL rankings, speaking of the Steve rankings, the NFL rankings, I did do some adjustment to the quarterback rankings. I felt like I didn't take a good enough stand on maybe some guys to take a good leap forward. Like, we did definitely classify everybody into good tiers, I think, in the last live stream, and I think a lot of the stuff that we mentioned, obviously, again, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm off of it, and who knows, I'll probably change this ranking over the course of the next couple days as well too. But again, just in terms of taking some stands on some guys, take some leap forwards. I do feel like I was a little pro Kyler Murray in the last live stream, and not to say that I am pro Kyler Murray going into this year, but I don't know if he's necessarily in like the best situation ever. I think it's obviously getting better, and they're continuing to add talent, and it hopefully seems like things are trending in the right direction. But I don't know if mentally I would lock that in as again, it's a good situation. I don't know if it's a really good situation or a great situation that he's in yet, but I do think it is a good situation, of course. So I kind of maybe pushed him. He's a little. We have him at, I guess, 13 right now on the list, and I still can't even decide if I want to make it like guys that I want to have right now or guys that I think I'm going to have more stock in at the end of the season. But I feel like that's kind of the same thing as well too. You think of you want the guy on your team now because you think he's going to continue to get better and play well this year. But yeah, we got Kyler at 13. I feel like if Kyler's in that near top 10 upper half of the QB rankings, I feel like that'd be a good season for him. So again, I'm not saying anti Kyler Murray this year, but him and Drake May. I guess Kyler at 13, Drake May at 14. So again, that's one where it's like at the end of the year, are we going to be looking at it going, and with is this trade value? Is this not even worrying about that type of stuff? But are we going to be looking at the end of the season going, situation not included, Drake May just straight up over Kyler Murray? Like how are we going to be debating that? But right now, I could definitely see Kyler being a little bit more well-rounded as a passer, and of course, just a little bit. I mean, I guess at the obviously the best version of Kyler is more athletic, but at this point as well too, Drake May's just younger and earlier on in his career, so the athleticism is just going to be there for him in a different spot as well too. So that's kind of a close one. Again, maybe we'll continue to update. I don't know if this will be like a trackable thing as well, but yeah, I guess we have and Drake May, we have him in the top half of the league as well, so that'd be a good rise for him as a second year guy for sure, continuing to up his status. I guess we had some tiers with some like undecided starter stuff because some announcements hadn't quite been made at that point. A major one, of course, being the Colts. Hey, they announced Daniel Jones as the starter today, which I don't know what that means for the Anthony Richardson experience. We're the only ranking that still hasn't been the top 32, including, our own team doesn't even have it in the top 32 anymore at this point. I don't even know. Do we have to see the full QB roster to see where he's listed at? I don't know. But I still, Anthony Richardson or, well, I guess, who knows. But, we do have, I ended up with Baker down at 15. I feel like we had Baker in the top 10 in the last live stream. But again, I feel like that would be, right now, kind of after last season, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. But with some of this young talent, like you were saying, again, like a guy like Drake May, or I guess, we have Caleb Williams right there at 12 as well, too. And of course, those guys could be very close for where we could see them at the end of the season. Those guys, of course, being some of the guys that were debated being drafted there as well, too. I guess, and also being debated at this point on the list because Jaden Daniels just descended above them all, and we have him in the top 5 already at this point. But I don't know if I would necessarily lock, again, going at the end of next year, at the end of this upcoming season, if I'm going to still say that Baker is a top 10 quarterback in the league. I could see a little bit of a shift happening there. But again, he's still in the top half. Bo Nix, obviously we're really pro the situation, but the individual talent of some of the guys, I would still, you would trade him out and say Sean Payton as the head coach is still going to be able to maximize the abilities, and maybe it would provide even a little bit more than what Bo Nix can provide. But also some of the situations that some of those young guys are in could also be really good as well too. I think, again, Sean Payton is definitely a good situation and proved it last year, and the team is also, and maybe as we continue to look into it here, just a really great roster around him. But Vrabel is a really good coach. Of course, Peyton a little bit more directly able to influence some of the offensive stuff that Bo Nix is able to do. But again, in theory, Ben Johnson's a really good coach for Caleb Williams as well too. And as he can kind of figure out some of that stuff, not just it's he's figuring out the offense and probably kind of refiguring out just some of the NFL stuff in general as well too. From who knows, what kind of place he was at last year with just being ready to be an NFL quarterback in that type of way. But in terms of, again, the coaching stuff that we've seen, I mean, again, Sean Payton's a head coach, much more legacy defined. But you would assume that if we're giving Ben Johnson at least a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in the preseason at this point, and maybe just kind of saying that this hyped version of him, then again, good offense. Caleb Williams with some of the mobility stuff and creativity stuff, and if he can continue to figure it out, you'd still probably say, okay, I think that maybe he'd be the guy over Nix in that standpoint. But we got him kind of right there with Justin Herbert. Herbert, right outside the top 10 is kind of interesting. But again, the Chargers you got Greg Roman and you got Harbaugh there. So unfortunately for Herbert, they're kind of trending in the wrong direction for a stats quarterback argument standpoint. I mean, the efficiency is still there, and the overall just great production, great clutch plays, great leadership that you want from your quarterback. But if the playoff stuff is still a little iffy, I mean, again, they weren't even in the playoffs last year. So if that just continues to be an issue, then maybe he continues to kind of filter toward this spot in the league. And he's not really being, I think, argued anymore as like a top 5 guy where, I mean, there was a time where it was, again, before, like we say, Daniels, Stroud, and I guess Daniels, Stroud, and Hurts, we did have them in a tier last time by themselves, those 3 guys. And again, Hurts has been to a couple Super Bowls over the last couple of years, and Stroud and Daniels have had just really impressive rookie seasons as well too. But those guys, I mean, again, I guess if we just like kind of do the galaxy brain, you think out the long-term narratives of it, I mean, they could be in a Justin Herbert type scenario in a couple of years if, again, but I guess for Daniel specifically, he's already been to a conference finals in year 1, so he's in some ways, eliminated that narrative. He's got a couple of more years to eliminate that narrative, before he maybe has to at least, I don't know, just win another playoff game. I don't know what the runway is for him there at that point. But, he's definitely, because he's entering the prime years of his career, and again, to his credit, he has shown that he is a really productive regular season quarterback. Unfortunately, he does need to, kind of prove it on a different level at this point to kind of break into that next tier as well too. So again, we're just going to kind of project some of the other guys above him as well at this point. But Cam Ward, I do have Cam Ward above Herbert, and that could get a little trade value-y with the contract next year for sure, where again, Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick this year, the rookie deal could be a very favorable thing if he turns out to be a guy. And I keep seeing these highlights. Hey, I mean, Sam sent me enough highlights over the offseason of training camp that now my algorithm just programmed that anytime Cam Ward makes a good throw in the preseason, we're just going to get the highlight. It is what it is. So, again, we're just trained at this point, just brainwashed from watching all the good Cam Ward plays to think that he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback. But he does really have a touch that I don't think, it didn't quite, I guess I was saying, it didn't seem like he had like in college. But again, these guys are still at the start of the careers, so maybe it's gotten better as well too. But regardless, there is like a ability to kind of drop the ball. And there's an arc that his passes have in the NFL and preseason and training camp that, again, they just weren't quite having it. Miami, it did seem more like there was or even Washington State as well too. Again, maybe that's the function of the offense. Washington State's a little bit more tempo and kind of the I guess again, his time on with Mike Leach as well too. But again, it just didn't seem like some of the deep ball lofted up over I don't know, maybe it just wasn't watching the right highlights as well too. And maybe I need to watch him with some of the underneath stuff. Maybe some of that stuff there is continuing to improve as well too. But this is, I mean, I buy all the Cam Ward stocks. So this is a guy, I guess, guy number 1 we're taking a stand on at this point. Because I guess, again, for Drake May, he didn't even really start till the end of last year. Caleb Williams, I think him being in the upper half of the QB, for him being a top 12 QB next year would be, I think, a really big sigh of, I would hope that would be a good sigh of, I guess, let me rephrase. I would hope the 12th best quarterback in the league season would be good enough that Bears fans could feel good going forward. Again, do you want Caleb Williams to always be outside the top 10? Probably not. But in terms of him trending upward, would that be the right direction? Absolutely. So for him to be just immediately like, okay, we'd rather have Cam Ward than Caleb Williams, Bears fans would be like, oh, okay, it is what it is. We're just like 1 year off from the number one draft pick again, but or just so close to getting the quarterback. But I just can't help but be scared with what he might provide from that spot there in Tennessee. And to be honest, again, the Titans thing is a little interesting as well too. I guess they claim that they do claim the Oilers history, so they would have Warren Moon in there because I was gonna say if Houston, the Texans would be a new franchise that started in '02. So if Warren Moon had been with the Texans legacy, then there is a weird, a case of Cam Ward because is he on? What's the path for him to be the best quarterback in Titans history? I guess at that point. But again, I guess they are. It's a long path if Warren Moon is the guy that you have to get past that point. But again, I am buying up stock for Cam Ward's season this year. I think he's from I don't know what the Titans are gonna. I know we looked up their win total a couple of episodes ago because we were already, like we were saying, worried about him during the preseason, during the training camp stuff, as well too. So I don't know if the team necessarily is going to be that great, but maybe that's the first team we take a look at here, as well, to kind of refresh and see what the scenario is. But you think from a running back standpoint, Pollard is still a veteran guy that can be pretty productive as well. I think they still have Ridley. Who, I mean, there still could be some wide receiver one stuff with Calvin Ridley for sure. So you got Calvin Ridley, Van Jefferson. I guess PFF doesn't like Van Jefferson. That's a little surprising. A McVay guy, a guy that's played in the McVay. So I guess was he in McVay's offense last year? Is maybe why the PFF grades down. But they also have Tyler Lockett as well too. So 33-year-old Tyler Lockett, is one thing. But that's a veteran receiving core for him to work with. Again, is that the receiving core Cam Ward's going to win the Super Bowl with? Is that a better receiving core than these other ones? But no. But again, if we're just kind of going Cam Ward specifically, that is a receiving core that again you can produce with. That's not and can maybe show your stats as well too. Like if you actually can read the defense and make the throws. Like the guys can actually get open and they can make the catches and there's not going to be the drop. Again, speaking of Justin Herbert, I guess in fairness, he is suffering from that a little bit. Like there's a little drops thing that goes on there in the Chargers. And if it's like, if they're catching Herbert's passes, is he all of a sudden a top 5 QB in the league? So these are guys that can catch Cam Ward's passes, I guess is the short of it. But you have Zeitler at guard, who was the third best guard in the league last year, according to PFF. You've got Moore from the Steelers. Yeah, Dan Moore. Skoronski at left guard, Cushenberry, and then Latham as the tackle. So there is a path for their offensive line to be kind of decent as well too. Yeah, so I'm buying stock. Again, maybe the Titans are a 6-win team, but I feel like even that at this point would be a really great mental spot for the Titans fans to be in at the end of this year. Maybe it would be one of those weird things where like, okay, we almost don't want to be too good from a win standpoint because our team is not, again, a Super Bowl team. What is winning the division for us do right now? Like we kind of maybe could use it. Maybe not just again. Winning and being good is obviously fun at any point, but they kind of could use more studs and more blue chippers and some other building blocks as well too. But speaking of blue chippers, you do have Simmons on the defensive interior as well. Armani Hooker, the safety, is a guy that we definitely still have stock in at this point. Darnell Baker and Snead in the secondary. Snead did not have, unfortunately, the most productive stats here last year. So has Van Jefferson been challenging Snead in practice enough to help him recoup? Who knows? Is this Travondre Sweat? Shout out to the rookie Travondre Sweat. who looks like he had a good year last year as well too. So yeah, the Titans could be a feisty team as well. And maybe again with the young quarterback, with the rallying effort that can have of finding your franchise guy, and then just be the extra step that you can get from like, oh man, we have a dude that we believe in at quarterback. Like we can actually go out there and make plays, and they mean something. That can actually maybe unlock an extra level for some of these guys as well too. So yeah, I'm buying up Cam Ward stock again. Cam Ward as a rookie, top 10, but again, with the last couple of years, we've seen these guys elevate into the top 5. So maybe maybe flip him and Herbert. Maybe for the sake of Billy Bucket, shout out. I mean, shout out to the champ Quinn. We got the Lions quarterback Jared Goff down here in outside the top 20. Yikes! But again, that's honestly more trade value biased. Like a lot of the veteran guys that I moved down the list out of because we did have the veteran tier just ordered above the younger guy tiers on the last live stream. And I guess for me personally, again, if I was building teams and drafting guys, I would just gravitate toward the what if potential of some of the prospects, I guess. And it just depends. Like Burrow, obviously. It's like, oh yeah, okay, well, I guess I'll take Burrow. But again, if the other option is Jaden Daniels, I guess that's a really close one. But if Burrow over Cam Ward, it gets a little bit more interesting, I guess, going forward versus 1 year versus how many years, whatever the conversation is at that point. But is Burrow already in? We're looking at the rookie quarterbacks, be like, yikes, Burrow. But no, Burrow, of course not. Burrow's got a lot of great years left to play. But I guess, him being a quarterback that is in the upper standing of the league in Cam Ward, I could definitely see happening at the end of this year as well too. And speaking of the 40-year-old virgin out of the background, which don't forget about, Chad. I guess we're not gonna. It's gonna be harder to pay attention to. I guess pause. It is on the phone, like we mentioned. But the iconic waxing scene, shout out, of course. I was gonna say we all know it's real, but now I'm doubting myself. I'm sure we could look it up on the Wikipedia of the movie. It'd be one of the first thing that pops up. Yeah, I mean, really, one of the. I gotta say. Maybe if not the is it the number one is it the number one comedic scene of like the first 5 years of the 2000s, from like 2000 to 2005? I guess I'd have to go back and try to make sure I'm thinking of all the movies correctly in the time frame there. But I guess like we're saying, with the way comedy's kind of puttered out a little bit, but I guess you do have like the Jump Streets and some stuff in the teens for sure as well too. And you're gonna have, it's more the amount and again the opportunity, just that different stuff more so than just is there a funny movie that exists from year to year. Like we're gonna have some for sure. But the blood through the shirt is iconic, Chad. Again, that might be real. I'm not sure. That is one of those things that might have to be real for you to just have that happen in the movie. Because I guess you would think like bleeding after a chest wax. I guess it's not something I've ever done. So ayo, shout out. I guess is that really a hot take? The guy in his 20s here sitting on his couch. I guess I was gonna say DM us a REMINGTONM pod if you've got your chest wax, but that's crazy. Ayo, IT, cut that out. But just like do a poll. Like I wonder, Steve Carrell's, like, what age does that start to become a thing for guys? I guess is like something that might get done regularly versus just shaving as well too is viable. I guess the thing would be, maybe does this scene, I wonder how this scene ages, just because 05, I guess, but shave technology, because again, it's not like it's not like some kind of intimate guy wax over here. I guess intimate guy wax is wild. Chad, ayo, cut that out. Just cut the last couple of minutes out. It is what it is. But intimate guy wax might be the craziest thing we've ever said on the live stream. It is what it is. Like a Brazilian wax, I guess, for a guy is just the easier way to say it. But, again, like I guess like just chest shave technology in 2005. Like Steve Carell just couldn't shave his chest, I guess. But again, you lose the scene. It is what it is. But if you just think of standout scenes from a movie, I maybe, speaking of Anchor, if we're just looking in this time period, speaking of Anchorman, obviously, I would say obviously, there's a ton of funny scenes in that movie. Paul Rudd with the Sex Panther cologne is pretty funny. That scene will definitely get you laughing. And maybe the most just again just like the absurdity of the comedy that's happening, where sometimes again it's like you can be laughing because the quality of the jokes, and a lot of times absurdity and quality can overlap for sure. But then sometimes again it's just things can be so absurd that you're like, what's happening here? This is just insane. I just can't control the laughter. So maybe just just the most uncontrollable what is happening from moment to moment type comedy stuff that I've seen is just the first time viewing experience might be Borat, the Sacha Baron Cohen movies. I would say Borat, and then it's not the interview is Rogan, Seth Rogen, the dictator. I think is Sacha Baron Cohen. Shout out. But I think Borat might be just like the most uncontrollable. Just like it's like again, you just don't even the first time you watch it, you just don't even know what's happening from scene to scene. And is that the one where he's got the bear as well too? I remember whichever movie Sacha Baron Cohen has the bear in it. When he brings out the bear, that's probably the most I've ever laughed in a scene. And it was just the setting that we were just like the couple of people that we were watching, we'd been laughing that whole movie. We're built up to that moment when he brought the bear out. It was just like, what is happening at this moment? The laughter just like kicked up an extra notch at that point. But again, other just individual standout scenes. The waxing scene is up there for iconic ones. And again, there is something to sort of a distinct kind of setting like that as well too, where that is just a everyday, not an everyday, but again, it's a more kind of typical thing that a more typical situation that people can find themselves into. We're gonna like Sacha Baron Cohen just showing up with a bear at some point is like just there's absurdity of that. Like you're just like I don't even remember. I don't even know if I've rewatched the movie since that point, honestly. But maybe it's just been like so, that first time watch was so good. It's like, why even go back and watching at that point? The second rewatch will never live up to that first time, chat. Hey, it is what it is. But, like we're saying, just the sort of, again, I don't know if it is the number one funniest scene, but I think there is a notoriety there is a legacy, I think, to that scene. Where if we were doing sort of a can we like look up the most iconic? Do we ask like ChatGPT like what are the most iconic comedy scenes of the 2000s? Hey I'm kind of interested, chat, to see which Reddit post will ChatGPT copy and see which answer it gives us. But I think that would definitely be a good one for sure. And I mean, there's gonna be all kinds of iconic scenes from that Apatow universe in general, but that one is pretty funny as well too. But I guess again, to go back to the Titans, shout out to the Titans. Cam Ward, I feel like he could have definitely a very impressive rookie season. And I guess here, I know we again looked at his like some of his rookie odds and stuff a while back, but I'm assuming those have been updated. And oh wait, did we click into a promotion? Oh, shout out. Okay, so for rookie of the year, was it Travis Hunter number one? Oh, that's right, G&T, of course. And I did see a couple of preseason highlights again of G&T just tearing through guys. So I don't want to say that like every team in the AFC is a sleeper at this point, but and I don't. Yeah, do we want to just sit here before the season even starts and go, sorry, fan bases, cross your team off? But do we just, maybe I'll just, pause, soften the blow. We'll start with our own chat, the Colts. Cross them off. This is what it is. Yikes, it's going to be a bad year. Arch Manning 2026. It is what it is. But I think if anybody was thinking maybe the Colts were the sleeper team in the AFC South, like I'm just telling you right now, it's the Titans. It's not the Colts. It is what it is. But the Raiders could be a fun team in the AFC West. I mean, like we're saying, the Broncos are the team that is definitely getting a lot of media hype right now. But, and I guess, again, the Raiders are a 4-win team. So, like we're saying for the Titans, them turning it around could be them winning 8 or 9 games and being really competitive in a bunch more and being like, the Raiders won 7 games, but they could have won 11. There was like these 4 games that went sideways in this type of way. But, and I think we did just look up their roster when we were looking at the quarterback stuff as well too, because I remember they're getting Malcolm Kuntz back. Shout out. We're remembering him obviously because he had a great season, not because of his name. I mean, his name, but you know what we're saying there. Shout out. But some weapons to work with. Jacoby Myers. I don't think we mentioned Jacoby Myers last time, but because again, Brock Bowers is the easy standout here with the tight end, sort of his value within his position group in the league, and then adding Ginty as the high draft pick. But Jacoby Myers was a number, a high value. You say a number one guy, but there is 32 teams, so there has to be at some point 32 number one receivers in a way. But like we're saying, if the quarterback, there is, I guess, a world where Jacoby Myers is a number one receiver. Could Jacoby Myers be the number one receiver on the Chiefs? Like last year, if Jacoby Myers was on the Chiefs, did the Chiefs win the Super Bowl? Who knows? And maybe it was more some up, the really good weeks as well too, some heat check type weeks. But decent offensive line. Decent group of weapons. Pete Carroll, Geno Smith. Let's see where they had Geno rated last year. 9th. Yeah, Geno. Shout out. So we might have to sneaky move Geno up the rate. Where were we sitting at with Geno? Oh, he's going to be 35 this year. Chev, you better turn around quick if you're the Raiders fans. But he is the, I guess, bridge the gap. But, you're going to get the 20th pick in the draft, so you're not going to be able to really draft a quarterback at that point. Okay, chat. Now we're really zooming ahead. We went from let's preseason hype rank the quarterbacks to now we're looking at the 2026 draft to see who the Raiders are going to replace Geno Smith with. And again, we like Geno Smith this year. So they have Geno Smith. They have the Raiders, I guess, at 8th in the draft. Speaking of which, right behind the right in front of the Colts. Right behind the Colts. Pause, however you want to say it. So yeah, Lenora Sellers to the Raiders. Drew Aller to the Colts. Chat. It is what it is. Who else is on the list? Klubnik. So maybe Klubnik a little later in the draft. It plays out this. I mean, obviously it'll play out just like this over the next, 6 months or whatever, 8 months to the NFL draft. But I mean, they could be maybe a little higher out of that range than they'd like, or maybe they constructed the team just good enough to where again they'll be really competitive but still win like 5 games. And, maybe they studied the advanced stats, like Geno Smith falls apart in the last 6 minutes of the game, so he'll play really well, and Raiders fans will be entertained, but they'll still lose games. And maybe that is actually something that would be valuable in a way. Like, we're saying there is, Daniel Jones would be a guy, it's like, maybe he doesn't have the 50 minutes, pause, that some of the other quarterbacks do. But if he was a guy that did kind of have that mentality, I mean, of course, I'd be upset about the fact that he's not winning the games, but if there was an entertainment value there and we were still tanking, I mean, I feel like I could see big picture. I don't know. I feel like we could read through the tea leaves. We could catch Ballard's plan in week pretty early. I think maybe even when the trade happens, Carson Wentz could have been that trade. I think unfortunately there wasn't much entertainment value there. Yikes! But I mean, there was definitely entertainment value for the other fan bases, I guess. For the Colts fan base, unfortunately, the entertainment value wasn't necessarily there in the same way. But, maybe Geno is that guy. Maybe Geno is the perfect tanking quarterback. Whereas Baker might actually win you. Yeah, so, I guess right now we have him for the veteran guys behind Stafford and Goff. And maybe those guys actually win you some games. Stafford could be an interesting one. Is Stafford going to be 40? Once Stafford turns 40, it's like, I was going to say we're the Leo of quarterbacks. But, I mean, I feel like 40 is a respectable age to start dumping quarterbacks. Shout out. But what team were we even looking for yet? The Rams. Speaking of Leo, Los Angeles. So we got Stafford sitting at 30. He'll be 38 if they make the Super Bowl. Stafford, 38 years old, playing the Super Bowl. Okay, so Stafford at 37. There's still a year in their chat. He's still got a year left. But behind Goff, still kind of in his peak years. Purdy, Prescott, a little more peak of his powers. And same with Mayfield as well, too. Is Mayfield... I feel like Mayfield sneaky could be like 33 or like 28. If Mayfield's 28, he might go back up the list, honestly, at that point. Ibuka? They got Ibuka? Mayfield's 30 right now, so he'll be 30. He turns 30 in April. So he will, turns 31, I guess, this upcoming April. So he's not going to, I guess, the birthday and the season's the whole determining factor, I guess, on whether or not we're in or out on the quarterback. But, he's still in those prime years, for sure. So we don't necessarily need to be scared off. But again, it's just sort of the next guys is, when is it their time to emerge as well too. So we still do have Baker over Bo Nix as well, for sure. But here, let's double check since we're looking at Goff as well. Let's double check the Lions here because the Lions are an interesting one. It feels like, and here, let's double check this as well too because I feel like this is their second full season being that competitive team, right? Because if we remember, and maybe this is their third, and that's really what I want to double check out here because, so yeah, okay, so this is their third because yeah, that first year that they were good, I guess, with Campbell, because that first year in general with Campbell, they were 3-13, but then they went 9-8. But remember, they won like those last 8 games in a row. So that first half of the year, it felt like they were still kind of that same Lions team, and then that last half of the year, it felt like they were the Lions team that we've gotten, of course, over the last couple of seasons. But them, still being that third year, it still would feel like they would be in that Super Bowl window, but that could be the year where things start to change. The defense is still pretty talented. So I think they lost Ragnow at center. So, we're program glass now. Hey, don't look at the Pro Football Reference rating on there. It's not going to mean much. I mean, this Lions offensive line has played well over the last couple of years. Taylor Decker's still there. Sewell, of course, is still a stud. I mean, Ratledge was a guy on Georgia for sure. I mean, kind of a fun internet guy as well, too, there. So I don't know if that makes him a better player, but I think the Lions were definitely, drafting that veteran win now guy that's impacted good teams type players. Sliding him into guard, of course, is different expectations than playing tackle. And on the right side, and he's playing next to Sewell, so it's a pretty good trio of factors. And he's competing across from Reeder and Hutchinson in practice, so he's definitely getting good reps in as well too. You get Hutchinson back in the start. Is Hutchinson a go for week 1 here? Let's double check that and see what we have. Because I don't remember exactly. Oh, yeah, he was hurt in the preseason? I thought maybe he was hurt in week. Oh, played 5 games. Yeah, played 5 games. Lions had a bye. Hey, was leading the league in sacks when he was out. And then, yeah, broke his leg in week 6. Okay, but he was talking like he was going to be back for the playoffs or the Super Bowl. So, he might have those regenerative powers to be back in time for definitely the start of the season. Football has been feeling normal for a long time now. I would say first day of OTAs, I got kicked, stepped on, everything under the sun on this leg. And after practice, I got up and I was like, all right, we're good. So, I mean, he did have that means he was still kind of in that space again at the start of OTAs where he's like, let's see what happens here. And he went out there. He was okay. And you hope that mental stuff is just, because he was one of the most ferocious players in the league when he was playing as well, too. So you would hope that he would be able to return in that type of way. And yeah, I guess just to remember all their injuries from last year as well, too. So their defense returning healthier maybe could help with the fact that they've had to change over some of the coaching staff as well, too. It really is just one of the most talented rosters in general. I guess the thing is, like we've said before, is in, like just the narratives are for Goff in general this year. What does that look like? Not just without Ben Johnson, but without an unproven play caller. Because, again, McVay kind of had a notoriety there. I guess, what was his time? Did they bring him and Goff in the same year? But then he was... No, because Goff did play under Jeff Fisher. That's right. He did. And then they brought in kind of the wonder kid, and Goff started playing well. So it was like immediate, kind of legacy stuff for... Not legacy, immediate notoriety stuff for McVay there. And then, yeah, they got to a Super Bowl, of course, pretty quick, for sure. And then Johnson. But maybe we do need to give Goff some credit. Of course, the Jeff Fisher stuff was... And we were saying that on the last live stream. We're just going back and forth here with Jared Goff. I guess point being, he is one of the swing guys we're watching this year. Of course, one of the variance guys for this season. And the supporting cast is definitely going to help his case. But again, it's the difference between them being that top-end team and them being a 9-win team. And if they're a 9-win team, I mean, that's still you could still walk away and go, the talent on the roster is still there. But I feel like, again, Jared Goff, that means he probably slips back a little bit into the quarterback rankings in this type of way versus him if the team is up there at the top of the league, like we're saying, him having to be able. And if, like we were doing, like we said on the last time, the rankings for right now, what have they accomplished up until this point in their careers, of course, without necessarily looking forward too much, then, he has to be a top 10 guy probably in the league at this point. Though I guess, Rodgers, if we're just ranking legacies, then him and Stafford and other guys are way up the list. Anthony Richardson's combine, do we get to rank that one up there? I don't know. But I guess knowing that the Lions are returning all their players and they're still stacked, and you've got Gibbs as well too as just a A+ just weapon guy in the league. Still one of the best weapons cores in the league for sure, between Gibbs, Amon-Ra, and Williams. And then if you go Hutchinson, Kirby Joseph, and honestly Brian Branch as well too, those three guys, that is, you could even say Sewell as well too, 4. That's about as good of a 3 on offense, 3 on defense, building block starter package as you're going to get from any team in the league. Of course, the Eagles are still probably the most complete roster in the league, but the Lions are definitely up there. The Eagles might have more depth as well, but they bring in Davenport on the edge as well. So here, let's go back to Philly and see what dramatic differences they have from last year, if any, to catch us up. Because I think a lot of the offense is still the same. I mean, again, this speaking of the 3 trios, of course, Barkley, Brown, and Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson in the offensive line, Jalen Hurts, of course, Cooper DeJean, year 2, shout out, running a bunch of those guys back. We've got Ojomo at tackle, Moro Ojomo. Was he a guy that was more a rotation piece from last year? Was he getting starting minutes? And I'm just not necessarily thinking of it. But they still have Jordan Davis. No, is he on some kind of injury thing, or was there something that happened that we don't know about? Let's see here if he is still okay. No, he's still listed on the roster. So I guess just Ojomo wins the starting spot. Ayo, shout out. So again, speaking of the depth, they definitely have the depth. And Jackson, Adoree Jackson. Ayo. So him as, potentially the third corner out there with DeJean kind of, maybe he's the second corner, but kind of third defensive back. DeJean a little bit more safety corner hybrid type. But Adoree Jackson a little bit more focused on some of the individual receivers, maybe in his coverage. But it's not too far off. It's not too far off the line. I mean, the Eagles were really able to upgrade their secondary last year, so that's obviously a big reason why they were able to win the Super Bowl and just the boost of their overall roster talent. But the Lions secondary is not too far behind. That's for sure. So we do have to give Goff some credit here. Let's see. Do we move him back up over McCarthy? Hey, yo, chat. Over Purdy? Over McCarthy. Shout out. We're just going to not let anybody talk us out of rating J.J. McCarthy outside of the top 20. But let's go San Francisco here and take a look at the Niners. Once again, running a lot of the guys back. And I guess at what point in running the guys back, like we're saying with the Lions, does that become an issue? But they're a little bit maybe younger than the Niners as well too. Fred Warner, we're never going to want the start of the fall off for Fred Warner's career. And 28, okay, we don't have to start worrying about it yet, Chad. Hey, I don't know what the lifespan is for the middle linebacker. We saw Kuechly kind of pull up early, Chad. He definitely, and again, once he made the Hall of Fame, he was like, I'm in, okay, I'm out. So, I mean, as a football player, what does he really have to do? I guess, I was going to say, could he be in the conversation for GOAT middle linebacker? Probably not, of course. I don't want the old heads to be like, how could you even bring him up? I mean, again, he's probably a GOAT era conversation guy. So at that point, if we're sending representatives from each era, then he's probably a representative conversation guy from the era. But I mean, you think I mean, I'm not going to have the great names from back in the day, but like the Steelers guys from back in the day, or of course, Ray Lewis or Patrick Willis. I don't know, but shout out. It does feel like middle linebacker is a little more debatable. Maybe that one is for. Do we need to start like a middle linebacker ranking? Because maybe that one needs. For some reason, that one feels left unranked. I don't know. We have conversations. We definitely have, of course, quarterback conversations, but wide receivers for sure. Running backs. I mean, you definitely know who's in the top and who's in the mix and who the people are arguing about. And again, even the generational stuff where it's like Peterson versus Tomlinson for generational type arguments, and then of course Sanders versus Emmett for the 90s. But maybe off and for defensive backs as well too, like we Dion and Ronnie Lett, like we kind of have the guys defined at the tops of those spots as well too. Defensive line, of course, with the edge rushers and Aaron Donald, some of the interior guys, like there's definitely a discussion there, I think, for defensive line, though that one's a little bit more vague, a little bit more open for interpretation, I think. But the middle linebackers, it feels undiscussed, Chad. It feels undiscussed. And obviously Fred Warner a little bit more, not just full up middle linebacker, but still a little bit more inside linebacker than some guys typically play today as well too. They do invest in the defensive line with basically, a top, like I know, 11th pick, it can kind of get weird versus like the number 9 pick in the draft is like, oh, this top 10 best guy in the draft they potentially could have gotten versus, 11th pick in the draft is not a top 10 pick, so he's forgotten about. But, he's right there in that discussion as well too. And maybe they drafted him a couple spots higher. I don't exactly remember, but he is a guy that could definitely impact him right away for sure. I mean, we see him here projecting into the starting lineup as well. And even without Ayuk at the receivers, like we did see Jennings have he's the 14th on PFF. Hey, yo. So do we have to include Jennings, McCaffrey, and Kittle and Pearsall into the best weapons in the league conversation? But again, those guys in Purdy's offense, and Shanahan's offense too. Hey, yo, who does the offense belong to? But, the offensive line would be the thing that hopefully it can continue to protect Purdy in the right kind of way. Hopefully Trent Williams can stay at that elite level. You see him still as a top 10 tackle in the league via PFF as well too. I think maybe the grades are still good across the board. Maybe there is some, maybe that's some Purdy stuff as well too. 10th? I don't know. We go back and recall the season. There was some injuries, some unlucky results. So maybe just them sticking to kind of the, normal game plan, normal business, do their thing. We're a good roster with a good process and able to get good results. We'll just have the stuff will break our way, stuff will go our way again this year, and it'll be fine. So wait, where do we have Purdy at in the rankings? We have Purdy behind Prescott, behind Bo Nix, behind Baker, Drake May, Kyler. So do we have to look at the Cardinals, chat? We may have to take a look at the Cardinals here. What do we got? Kevin Givens and Jordan Elliott. Okay, still on the interior for the 49ers as well too. I do like Brown, the safety, Jair Brown from Penn State. He is going to be in his third year. I think he maybe could be a take the leap kind of guy as well too. Jason Pinnock is going to be his backfield running mate, I guess, if we're looking at the projected starters. But let's see who else they got, because they do have Lenore, I think, kind of invested in as the number one corner type guy. But they could continue. Renardo Green, is he a guy that can play a lot of volume snaps at the cornerback position? Because he might be a guy that could be starting for. It could be a Renardo Green, Diamandre Lenore sort of cornerback duo at some point as well too. Richie Grant, what year is Richie Grant going into? He can't play. Oh, Richie Grant, Chad. Hey, yo, get that PFF grade back up. I thought we were pro Richie Grant on this pod. Shout out. So again, between the studs that they have, that they're not going to be a bad team. But what did they win last year? And I guess some of those guys were injured as well too. They did go 6-11. Man, 6 wins is pretty low, Chad. Here, let's see. The results of some of those games is not necessarily, going to be indicative of how all of the competitiveness, of all of those games to see where they are going to be at for this year. But lost to the Vikings 17-23, 24-27 to the Rams, 23-24 to the Cardinals, 18-28 to the Chiefs. And then, they really just, fell apart at the end of last year, lost 7 of the last 8 games. Hey, yo. 1 win over the Bears, 38-13. But they were on the road for 5 of those games, or for, 4 of those games. They did win it on the road versus Tampa in the week out of the bye. And Tampa was a good team. I don't know how injured they were at that point. Lost to Green Bay and Buffalo kind of decisively, and the Rams, 6-12, but that was, not a great game. Lost to the Dolphins, the Lions 34-40, and the Cardinals 24-47, but they might have been eliminated from playoffs in the last games. Let's see, did either of these team starters play in the last game? No, we got Josh Dobbs making an appearance for the Niners. Kyler Murray going 242 and 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, a 128 quarterback rating against the 49ers bench there. So they really did go, 6-10 technically on the year. I don't know how many games Josh Dobbs did actually play, because maybe Purdy was in and out with injury as well too. But those are 2 pretty tough losses against the Packers and the Bills in the middle of the season, against some teams that you definitely want to be on the level of at that point. So you do have... Okay, so they had Brandon Allen. So that's a good excuse. If you have Purdy for that game against the Packers, is it, at least more competitive, giving yourself a chance? So was Purdy back for this game against the Bills? Or did... He was. So unfortunately in the game returning for Purdy, he wasn't able to play well. 11 for 18, 94 yards and 2 picks. Ayo, that's brutal. But again, missing the last game. So we're just going to chalk it up to that as well too. And then they get the win versus the Bears. That's a close win close loss, versus the Rams. And their defense was definitely playing pretty well. But a pick versus the Dolphins, 26 for 40 for Purdy. And then against the Lions, the score was good for that game, 34-40. It does look like it was close throughout for sure. San Francisco had the lead 28-24 in the third quarter. It was 34-28 at some point in the fourth there for Detroit. Goff, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 303. Purdy, 337, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 116 quarterback rating, 27 for 35. So he did start to play a little bit better after sort of returning. Maybe we just kind of go injuries, weird year last year. So we have him, like we're saying, below Prescott, below Bo Nix, which Sean Payton versus Kyle Shanahan is definitely a good argument for best coaching spot that, which coach would you rather have your quarterback play for? We could be biased, but Sean Payton does have a Super Bowl for going legacy, kind of results-based stuff, but current for 2025. We could definitely make the argument either way. But Bo Nix, maybe? Is there a chance he could have a little bit more zip than Purdy? Because that would be a thing, I think. And he does have some legs as well, too. So if he does prove to have maybe a little bit more... Because Purdy will definitely stand, I think, he'll definitely make a throw. I think sometimes he'll make a big quarterback throw and he just doesn't quite get it in there at pause AO. And then sometimes he also just, he'll have his, he didn't see the defender type plays as well too. But he could still definitely, as the more experienced guy, be the better quarterback than Bo Nix as well too by the end of next year. But Prescott as well is a tough one because, again, Prescott has sort of a get off the bus factor over Purdy as well. And they were 7-10 last year, so I guess, Dak was hurt last year as well. So both of those guys returning in the same spot. Dak was the 30th out of 42. Hey, yo, it's a good thing there was 42 QBs to help Dak's ranking not look so bad. Because 30 out of 32 is a yikes. Pickens, Turpin, and Lamb. So Pickens and Lamb is obviously a good one, too, for sure. I mean, until Jerry Jones trades Lamb for a running back at some point. But, maybe if it's the right running back, who knows? I guess it'd have to be like Bijan or something. Gibbs, Gibbs for Lamb. Who knows who's saying yes? And then you have Lamb, Amon-Ra, and Jamison Williams. Do they still have David Montgomery? Did he go somewhere else? That might actually be a one to talk out. But outside of Parsons, they do have our guy Osa Iguduza. Shout out the UCLA Bruin. I believe he just re-signed a contract for him. So locking him in, he is definitely a really great player for him. Deron Bland, has he been in and out with injuries the last couple of years? Maybe last year specifically, or was he returning from an injury? Yeah, last year he played 7 games after the breakout season, and he did have 5 picks in 2022 as well too. So there has been a production, an all-ball production with him, both years that he has been very, very healthy at corner. Not any picks in 7 games in 2024 is interesting, but he's starting to earn a little bit more respect at that point. He's still at 5 pass breakups versus, 15 on the year. The year before, 7 on the year, his rookie year. So you get him back healthy. You do have, is Diggs still recovering from injury, or is he on a different team now as well too? Let's double check the Diggs status. Okay, they do still have Diggs. Is he on? So is a pup active pup? It's like active, but can't physically participate under the person. I don't know, chat, but he'll hopefully be back for him this year. I guess again, I don't remember exactly when he went down with his injury, but I don't know if it's enough to. It's definitely not a better roster than the 49ers. So we just take a look at it that simply. And AO, the advanced stats are definitely not favoring Dak as well too. The Parsons thing is weird. Even if he does sign a contract this year, I don't know if that even means that he's on the team long term. You could see him being an NBA type timeline where he gets the money, gets the max contract, and then takes the trade, and then the trade request gets locked in. After that, of course, in football, it would seem like the contract long-term stuff would be for the guy to actually stick around. But maybe he pursues a different path like that as well. So I am tempted to kind of move Purdy up over Prescott, but I guess we could do like our our roster rankings and just rank the Niners over the Cowboys in that way too. So wait, should we rank the rosters here real quick by the ones that we've looked at so far, and then we can add to it and adjust as we go. So we have the Cowboys in here, chat. Hey yo, so how many teams do we have to add in over the Cowboys? We did say the 49ers. We did say the of course the Eagles and the Lions, and we're still in the NFC at this point. I still think I would go Lions over 49ers, just because if we are looking at the total roster outside of QB, here, should we label this as well too? We'll go non-QB roster. There we go. They do have, the Lions, I think, do have slightly better all-round weapons. I think, of course, Gibbs, maybe a little bit more reliable than McCaffrey, the receivers, maybe a little bit of a notch up over what the Niners have at this point as well too. But the the defenses, like we're saying, the sort of the totality of the Lions defense is definitely there. And there's definitely some guys that feels like, like we're saying, continued emergence. Pause. Could definitely happen as well. And then we did look at the Titans already. So would we put the Titans over the Cowboys? Ooh, chat. That is interesting because, of course, I feel like the top end talent is still pretty good. You know, if we're taking Dak and Cam Ward off it, and again, we have Cam Ward way over Dak in our quarterback rankings, so shout out Cam Ward. But you would have Parsons versus Simons as the best players debate, as well too. Not even just the best defensive lineman debate, but just player on the roster in general debate. Parsons still probably wins that. Then you're going Lamb versus, who's the number 2 best player on the Titans at that point? Lamb versus Calvin Ridley, or who is the Zeitler, the guard. So maybe they would. Oh, but here, let's take a look. Smith. Oh, Tyler Smith. So maybe the offensive line. That's right, Tyler Smith. Maybe the offensive line is decent. Terrence Steele. Guyton is gonna need to take a step up in the advanced stats, I guess, from the PFF side of things. And they still didn't. Oh, they brought in Javonte Williams. So that's a swing for sure. I mean, didn't necessarily have the production last year, which is maybe why the availability lined up for him to be able to go to Dallas. But he's a guy that's produced in the past. And, the running back timeline, unfortunately, it is what it is. So he would kind of, he is out of a certain window, unfortunately, for him. But he could still definitely be a very productive guy in this Cowboys offense as well, too. So let's go back to the Titans one more time and double check Tennessee and see. I guess, Trevondre Sweat, the tackle, the nose tackle, is definitely one for sure. I don't know if Okonkwo, the tight end, is definitely in the conversation yet as well, too. We probably still have to take the Cowboys at this point, but if Snead does get better, and then you have a really good Snead year, Simons and Sweat on your defense, Cam Ward leading this thing with, like we're saying, Zeitler and Ridley and there's some good pieces here. I don't think these teams are too far off. Do we put the Titans over the Cowboys and just say Snead is back? Hey, do we just search Legarian Snead training camp and see what the people have said? So we got how strong is Parsons, Lamb, Pickens combo? I do think that is really, like Lamb and Pickens is a pretty scary receiving duo. Like a lot of those guys can create separation really. Like, I mean, CeeDee Lamb can definitely get separation before the catch. Of course, Pickens can get those contested catches. They're both really dynamic creators when they're turned into runners as well too. So it is, I think, a really scary, good receiving room for Dak to work with. But I don't know, Chad. I guess I just want to put the Titans over the Cowboys. So let's just do it. Ayo. Pause. It is what it is. So we got the Titans ranked down there on the list as well too. And then let's see who else we looked at the Raiders. So the Raiders, between Crosby and Jeanty and Bowers, their blue chippers might be a step up over the Titans and the Cowboys at this point. Crosby over Simons, Jeanty over, I guess they're not really as, like we're saying, the top end blue chipper weapons for the Titans at this point. But Jeanty over CeeDee Lamb, Bowers over CeeDee Lamb is definitely a really, really good conversation to have as well too. And Geno is right in the mix for these quarterbacks, if we're saying how that can align too. So let's go the Raiders over the Titans and the Cowboys. Hey, yo, Chad. The Cowboys are going to end up... Do we throw the Chad, should I just throw the Cowboy doc on the second TV? Hey, yo. We still got 40-year-old virgin going in on the phone. It is... Hey, Paul, the movie? Starring Steve Carrell. Should we just... I just got some rated 40-year-old virgin. Hey, yo, Chad. What's going on? But so let me tell you, should I take a quick break? I forgot about that. Did they drop that today? What is that even called? It's got to be called America's Team. Right, Chad? I guess... The thing is, we just fire up Netflix, and it's like, Cowboys, watch this. So I didn't even really see what the name of it was. Does it have a... Did they already add it into the Wikipedia page? Let's see here. Other uses, records and media, 2012, 2003. Here, I guess we'll just look it up real quick. Cowboys doc. And let's see what we get for... recent. Oh, it's not going to tell us when it dropped. I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it is called America's Team. So I guess I don't know why this. Apparently, the doc is not big enough to have its own Wikipedia page, chat. Hey, yo. Even yet. Because, again, it's a doc, so a lot of the information is out there, I guess. Just because, it's the Cowboys stuff. So, maybe the page would have to be specific to the making of the project itself. But who knows? I don't see anything. So regardless, we'll take a quick break. I'm going to fire up the Cowboys doc on the second TV. We did have the WNBA going. Shout out to the Liberty. I think they got the win over the Link. It looked like they had to storm back a little bit as well, too. Or I don't know if they were playing with Breanna Stewart tonight. So maybe just the battling effects of that as well. But we'll be right back, chat. Fire up your Netflix. Get that Cowboys doc on the background while we see how far down they slide down these rankings, I guess. We'll see. Be right back. Commercial break, chat. Don't go there. Okay, chat, we're back. We've got the America's Dream Cowboy, America's Team. America's Dream, America's Team. Yeah, America's, I guess, Dream Team was the 92 team, which, I mean, Netflix didn't talk about as well, too. So, I mean, shout out to Netflix for the sports history, I guess. But we've got the America's Team doc fired up in the background. I mean, Jerry Jones just does one Landman cameo and thinks he can start a whole Netflix doc, Shaq. Hey, yo, it is what it is. I mean, his setup to open the whole thing literally looks like his feature, like it was like they brought Taylor Sheridan to be like, how would you design Jerry Jones's staging setup for these docs interviews? And this desk with the Jerry Jones, I mean, it does seem exactly like a Jerry Jones, just rich billionaire egotistical type desk. It is what it is. I mean, we're a couple minutes into the doc at this point. We haven't heard from anybody else besides Jerry. I mean, you would expect, okay, here we go, Troy Aikman, finally, shout out. So you would expect that, I mean, the story of not just the story of the Cowboys doesn't start with Jerry Jones. Ayo, I mean, to him it does. But it doesn't in actual history, of course. It is what it is. But, I mean, the story of the 90s Cowboys, of course, does start with Jerry Jones. So I get that, introducing him. And make no mistake, again, he's not going to probably be a part of a doc that's like, I'm not the main character / main story / I'm just going to be the first one introduced as well too. But Simmons and shout out Bill Simmons and Cousin Sal, when they were reacting to the version of the doc that they saw, they said that Michael Irvin is absolutely fantastic in this. So I honestly, the Cowboys, I can only watch so much of this, but I will probably skip through it and see some of the Michael Irvin stuff, because shout out, I do who doesn't love Michael Irvin as a football player? He was great. I mean, and this, for as much as sort of, and maybe that kind of speaks to just the Jerry Jones persona and what he is, what has happened to sort of the branding of the team. I mean, again, the team brand is strong, but the sort of, I mean, just the belovedness of the team, I guess. And again, how does that correlate to the dollar value of the Cowboys is sort of the big factor. At the end of the day, I guess, to Jerry Jones. But again, in the 90s, as much as he was, always still sort of the Jerry Jones character, the outspoken, just, crazy type of ways that he is, like, this 90s team was a beloved team, and I can't necessarily put myself in the moment, not being there and say, hey, people love this team in the moment. But again, I just feel like looking back, people talk about this team in a beloved way, and, even still, as a guy that never even watched this team in real time, like, I look back at this team and go, that's just a cool collection of talent to hear about. I mean, again, Michael Irvin definitely be the number one. But Larry Allen, Chad, I mean, rest in peace, the legend. I mean, that would have been definitely a guy you'd want to hear from in this documentary as well, too. I don't know how open he was to being involved in these types of projects. But that's just, I don't know if we, I don't know, yeah, I guess I don't know if I power rank my favorite players from the Cowboys as well. Because, and I guess this team is interesting for us because, again, it's one of just the more famous, not just the Cowboys franchise, but again, this team specifically, the 90s team, is maybe the most famous team in NFL history, you could argue. I mean, the Brady's Pats are up there, but it's like which version of the Brady's Pats, and it's more Brady and Belichick individually, because I don't think, and Gronk and Edelman and those guys are obviously, I mean, again, those guys are pretty big stars for what they were able to accomplish in that run, and Gronk is a great tight end, but Edelman's obviously not, the legacy receiver that Michael Irvin is. Shout out to, of course, Edelman. It's just a little bit of a different thing. But we got, is that George Bush in the doc? I guess the Texas connections. Hey, yo, I guess it is what it is. Like I said, I mean, how many episodes can we watch of it? Because, I mean, as interesting it is, the storylines may be, like I'm saying, as beloved as this team may be, if 60% of the talking is from George Bush and Jerry Jones, it's like, okay, I probably I'll just go back to Tubi and see if Demolition Man's on there again at that point. But, yeah, like, Michael Irvin, beloved, just guy to think about. Pause. Football-wise, Larry Allen, just great football personality. And I was going to say with Emmitt Smith, one of the sports biographies that I read, of course, just in general as a kid growing up, but one of the ones that I owned as well, too, was the Emmitt Smith one. And there was a guy that used to go to used to stop by the church that we went to, like, once a year. and he would be this like traveling sort of church book salesman guy. I guess he could still be kicking it in business as well. I mean, shout out, he'd always, and he had a good collection as well too. You always find something. But I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure that's where I got the Emmett Smith book. That's not where I got the Dr. J book. Hey, the Dr. J book is very crazy. Did not get that one at a church sale. But Dr. J book's good as well, too. Shout out. Recommend reading that if you want to, just a vivid, a guy being very, open about his life in him being an NBA player as well, too. The Wade one as well. The Dwayne Wade one is probably the most recent NBA player one that we've read at that point, because he would have, I guess, we could look up the year what year did Dwayne Wade drop his book? I don't even remember what it was called. He would have still been in Miami. I don't think he would have been on Cleveland at this point. I think he was definitely still in the NBA, but he was, again, I don't think quite bouncing around to the teams at this point. Oh, chat. I'm an idiot. I don't think anybody spells Wayne like that. Let's see here. What is it called, chat? Father First? Hey, yo, see, yeah, again, the kids are obviously, are they both NBA, age, I guess? Just, again, in terms of the timeline of things. But I don't know what year it says that, because this, I guess, is this the book here? I'll click on Amazon and see Three Dimension? I guess this might be a different book. Hey, yo, Dwayne Wade, the author. He had to update, chat, of course. See what's going on. Shout out, get a new cover. Is this just a different cover version? I guess the long-awaited photographic memoir. Yeah, 2021. It was definitely that Father First book that we read. Maybe that was another. I'm trying to remember, because we weren't necessarily like big bookstore people, but somehow we did get quite the collection of sports biographies. We were library. We did hit the library every now and then, for sure. So I remember getting a couple from there, but again, I owned a bunch as well too. So I guess I don't remember if I owned that Wade, if I bought the Dwayne Wade book, or if I got that from the library. But again, it's just like if an NBA player's face is on the book, it was not like a big reader, so it's like, well, okay, I guess I'll just read the one with the NBA player faces on them. At that point, we're like, I guess we need to go to Dwayne Wade for fatherhood advice as a 14-year-old. I don't know how, again, when this book was written, at this point. And I guess, hey, yo, chat, if just fatherhood books on Amazon, shout out. How far do I have to scroll down? We'll have to see. I guess there's just no celebrity father books in general that pop up. Number one, it's just a bunch of generic books. So I don't know if that means something, if these are like the studs. Oh, chat! Hey, yo, Amazon canceled. That's crazy. But I guess you'll just have to watch the video version to see which version of the book. Just scrolled past. It is what it is. It's crazy that we had to scroll all this way before we got to a real person writing a book. And I guess these are all real people, but just like a real person face on the front of the book, not some graphic. It's Kevin Hart, and it's crazy that he's not the first celebrity mentioned as well too. But yeah, the bare essentials of fatherhood, and it's just a picture of a couple of literal, grizzlies on the cover here. Like, what's going on? But the price of fatherhood, we just got a generic cowboy, American post-Civil War westerns. What is it? That might just be a novel. I don't even know if that's a self-help book. So yeah, I guess we're a long ways from the Dwayne Wade book at this point. And here's another Dwayne Wade book that's not, I guess, written by Dwayne Wade, AO. But the Jesus Shuttleworth book, I don't think we'll just skip the chapter about his Miami tenure as well too. I guess I'm trying to remember, maybe that was even before, would this have been, I guess, I don't know why we can't get a year on this. I guess, do we just click on this here? Because would this have been even before the Oh, yeah, it's just not on Amazon anymore? Can we? Oh, here we go. Father First. Maybe we'll actually track it down. What year? 2013. April 22nd, 2013. So the NBA Finals. I'm trying to think of, again, we have this blanked out of our mind because it's a traumatic NBA experience before the Spurs were able to get revenge as well. But the Spurs, so I'm trying to think of, yeah, so the traumatic event that took place in the finals for the Spurs would have been this upcoming summer. So we read it, and then I guess fortunately that event's just cut out of the book at that point. It's like literally every event leading up until, Heat's history, we're just like, okay, we're out at that point. We don't want to just like read about Dwayne Wade, taking out San Antonio in the NBA Finals. But yeah, we did read. So I guess, I don't remember why we're talking about that at this point. Something to do with Michael Irvin, the Cowboy. There you go, shout out. So we had the Emmitt Smith book, I guess. It is what it is. We read the Emmitt Smith book, and I guess it's one of the books that we read, we owned. It's a good one, so I guess we read it a lot. But I remember one of the first ones we ended up reading as well too. So I don't know. It was just, we were kind of introduced to this '90s Cowboys team early, via his perspective of the team and his his life experience as well too. But so yeah, one of the first teams that we were, and again, I think a lot of people are introduced to because of the notoriety there, and the fun Miami connections with Michael Irvin and Jimmy Johnson. I know that I don't know, we weren't necessarily like, we're Miami Hurricanes history is the first thing we're thinking of when we're starting to learn about college football, but it is another super notable team. There's a 30 for 30. You're getting into the sports history. You're watching those. It's one of the things that you're learning about via that. But I guess to continue looking at these teams, hey yo chat, do we just put the Colts on here somewhere? Because I guess here I haven't even looked at the Colts roster this year, chat. It is what it is. I do feel like, unfortunately, and I do, and I do want to be a supportive fan, chat. I don't want to get on here and, even if, I guess, again, I don't want to be, unrealistic or dishonest about a way we feel about something. But I don't necessarily want to be like, oh, this guy sucks, this team sucks. I don't think that that's the case either. Like, I do actually really like our roster. I do think that, unfortunately, the fluctuation of the quarterback position could be interesting. And I just feel like again, it's not a performance thing necessarily, but I do wonder if this could be a little year from hellish for the Colts, maybe with some injury. Again, it's like, randomly, is this the season where we're going to get injured? But I just kind of have a vibe that, again, some teams, unfortunate as it is, some teams are going to fall apart in the NFL season. And I'm not. So I don't know if I'm just, sorry, Colts players tune out because I'm pessimistic right now. And, I guess I'll just it'll be the sacrificial lamb because that's our team. So, if we're going to just sit here and be sort of not optimistic about a team, I guess, again, we'll make it our team as the sacrificial lamb. But, yeah, the Ward signing is really nice. I do like that. Again, the timing of the career is interesting, but I've always liked him, so it's just having him on the roster is like, I don't know if this is a New York Knicks thing, but, I guess him across from Kenny Moore as a cornerback too could be kind of fun. Juju Brents. I really like some of the pieces on the defense and the weapons as well too. I don't even want to scroll down and look at it. Hey, yo. But I really do like what even with Adonai Mitchell as a weapon who's not listed here as a starter as well too. But Tyler Warren could be a top 5 tight end in the NFL at the end of next year. Who knows? Just in terms of individual production. So I do really want to buy stock again in the rest of the roster. And I think, in a little bit of the way we were talking about when Wemby went to the Spurs, it was like, hey, he goes to this team. There's some really good talent on this team that kind of, I do feel like it is kind of in that type of spot where we are a talented roster that, again, kind of maybe needs a solidified franchise quarterback going forward. And again, the Spurs kind of had that when they got the franchise guy, hopefully, with Wembanyama, seeming like it, in that pick in the draft. And, again, I don't know if that's what I kind of optimistically have been. And, we did get to that top 4 spot when we took a quarterback a couple years ago. But I don't know if that's just, again, where I kind of want to subconsciously kind of naturally gravitate toward as a fan is having us, if we're not going to, again, be obviously a Super Bowl competitive team or trending in that kind of direction, is to go a little bit backwards to try to get a quarterback as well too, because again, we've been in this spot before as well too, of bringing in the turnover of these veteran guys. So you don't necessarily want to be stuck in this middle ground for, again, the next half decade again as well too. I don't think we would. I think, it was established when the pick was made that, and I know that I guess Irsay did maybe say something about that pick. So rest in peace. He is not with us anymore. I don't know, if the ownership group is still navigating in that same type of way of we need a franchise guy, because that was, again, not just the only reason that they took Richardson at that spot, but definitely a deciding factor in it was the fact that we had been in that turnover spot year after year. And it's just like, let's just take a chance we have a chance to take a guy. Let's take a guy. And instead of just, I'd have to go back and see who we could have gotten. I'm never thinking about who we could have gotten at that point. It doesn't really matter. Again, we needed a quarterback, and Richardson's combine is totally worth it. Hey, yo, chat. It is what it is. So I still in Buckner. Like, Buckner's a stud. Latu could be a stud. Like, the defensive line could still be really good this year. Again, we could still have a top 10 defense in the league. Maybe that 8 to 10 type range. With maybe, I guess, I don't know if this might be the most complete offense that Daniel Jones has been in. And I do really like Steichen as a head coach, and I don't want to disrespect. I like Daboll as a head coach as well, too. And I think he's really good. So I don't know if I'm necessarily going to say that Steichen's like a much better, again, I think both those guys are really good coaches. So I don't know if, it's him going from bad system to good system in Indy. I think he is kind of going from good quarterback coach to good quarterback coach. But maybe the roster in Indy on the offense is a little bit better for Daniel Jones. So who knows if that helps him. Get to 6 or 7 wins this year. We'll see. But in terms of the, just take any of the random quarterbacks and put them on this roster. Again, it's not a bad spot to be in. If Caleb Williams was on this roster, you wouldn't be like, oh, again, the Colts are a disastrous place for Caleb Williams to be. You'd be like, it's pretty good. I get it. Is Ben Johnson a little bit more projected as a quarterback whisperer than Steichen? It would just be those narrative things we're kind of debating at this point, because Steichen's still a little unproven at this point as a head coach too, just time-wise, with maybe a season or two before we start making real claims about Steichen as a head coach, or maybe 6 weeks. I don't know how long we'll give it as Colts fans. But again, just any of those kind of middle tier, they could go any type of direction quarterbacks, or even the good quarterbacks as well too. I feel like, again, maybe I'm even putting the Colts, maybe I'm talking myself back into the Colts chat live. Hey, yo, who knew that was going to happen? But, if you put Mahomes on this roster, is it worse than the Chiefs? I guess, again, is he getting Andy Reid as well too? Are we getting Reid and Mahomes? Then, put us in the Super Bowl too, chat. Hey, yo, maybe that's just, because I guess if you just have those two ingredients, then, you're definitely a long ways of the way there. But assuming we stay healthy, we're still obviously above average roster in the league. I just hope that vibes-wise with the quarterback stuff, everything go, because that's what I'm saying with like the Titans. If you have that guy that, and maybe, I think it's not necessarily a hot take at this point to say that Cam Ward could just be a better quarterback than Daniel Jones by the end of the year. But again, the mental factor of the rest of the roster, where the Colts roster could be better than the Titans roster overall. But the Titans roster may be at the end of the year playing better because they're just more rallied around their guy. And there is, again, maybe they're not actually healthier, but just that mental stuff is carrying them through the season or whatever. So just the blind name test of it. Again, even overall, I guess the Raiders were really valid. I just love Max Crosby. So he's just going to be, we're just ranking Max Crosby. It's a team ranking and then a Max Crosby ranking at that point. So I don't know, overall. But Buckner versus Crosby is pretty close. So the secondary stuff is still a work in progress for Indy. I guess it's a little projectable there as well, too. The offensive line for Tyler Warren versus Brock Bowers as well. I feel like if we don't put the Colts over the Raiders, they're going to end up too low. But I don't know if we can commit that way. Do we have to look at I don't know. I feel like the Colts front seven is pretty decent. And Bynum as well, too. as a safety. I do like our safeties. I do like Bynum and Cross. Again, do we have an elite safety tandem? But they could definitely get better, though, this year as well, too. We're not giving our guys any benefit of the doubt. Chet, screw it. We're hot take. The Colts roster is better than the Raiders. Okay, I don't know if we're getting crazy here on the live stream, but it is what it is. That's the direction that we're going to go in the rankings for right now. So I did say we were going to look at Arizona. Let's go ahead and take a look at them as well, too, since we are kind of debating on whether or not Kyler could be having potentially a bounce back year. I guess the secondary depth here, Garrett Williams, third graded corner in 2023 via PFF. Hey, yo, chat. He did take, let's see here, he's only got 14 snaps listed at punt return and 29 snaps listed at field goal. So it means, he didn't play like 75 snaps on defense and then mostly special teams and then, it was really good and just enough snaps to qualify, whatever. He was playing real defensive minutes for him. Just, I guess, not a name I'm super familiar with. So that's awesome, chat. Shout out, of course, the safety combo is a pretty good name value there. And then they got Will Johnson, our guy, chat. Hey, yo, I forgot they got him in the second. He went in the second round. So they have him listed as active. I know there's some injury stuff there for him, but they have him listed projected into the starting lineup as well, too. So that's a guy that was, top of his class in high school, even top of his class in the draft. And to be honest, it wasn't even till the end of the college, it wasn't even until the injury stuff started to happen that he slid down. So I guess his medicals may have been a little red flaggy for sure. But again, his just general player upside is really great. And if he's just even their cornerback 2 next to whatever the upside of Williams is, that could be potentially a really good duo there on defense. The edges here of the defensive line is definitely shaping up. Of course, Zaven Collins. And you've got Josh Sweat. You're bringing in Josh Sweat? Okay. I mean, he was a lead guy in Philly. So, without the depth in the rotation, that could be one thing. Arizona's had some of those, they like some of those outside linebacker pass rushers. They'll definitely pay for the guy that was good like the last couple of years and bring them in for sure. But I like him next to Collins as well, too. Again, there is a little depth there as well. I don't know overall offensive line. You have Paris Johnson as a stud at left tackle, definitely taking care of a lot of issues. Evan Brown. How's it Froholt from Arkansas? I don't know if that's an Arkansas name there, Chad. Hey, yo. But 6th overall center on PFF is definitely playing well. Is that Will Hernandez at right guard? And then we've got Jonah Williams over at right tackle. So I know he's been, on that Bengals offensive line has been a little up and down over the last couple of years. But again, for Murray, it might not be the worst offensive line in the world. I guess, at some point, you got to start actually comparing the offensive lines to each other in the league as well, too. But you do have McBride there and Harrison and Connor. So they do have that trio of weapons to work with on defense. Like we're saying, just a really maybe another above average contending defense. So they don't really have the Max Crosby elite player on, really, I guess maybe Harrison in the skill set, but on the offensive line sort of or defensive. I guess you do have Paris Johnson. Could potentially continue to ascend there as well, too. So, they're definitely not over the 49ers. I think they could also be over the Raiders, but that's close as well. I guess, Michael Williams is a guy that maybe if Kyler Murray continues to ascend, he also, continues to look better as well, too. And if Kyler Murray's good, I mean, he's like a interesting, I don't know if you're like locking him in as like a fantasy guy. So just that sort of, he's quote unquote guaranteed production. Again, I don't know if he's in a quarterback dependent type territory, but there is upside with him there too, as the wide receiver too. And then we know they've been kind of able to use some of those slot weapons effectively over the last couple of years. So I do like the upside of this team. And, we got to value the overall depth at some point. So again, you know, things are going to happen. Teams are going to have guys miss time. It is what it is. But if we're just looking at everybody playing, you've got Denzel Burke from Ohio State as well too in the secondary. You've got let's see here, Akeem Davis Gaither as another linebacker. Oh, Walter Nolan. Oh, chat. Walter Nolan. BJ Ojolari also as well too. So he's not listed with having any stats. I guess has there been an injury there thing with him? But wait, where was he drafted? Was he a first-round pick guy? No, he's another second-round pick. So they've got some interesting names from the first and second round still hanging on defense there. Walter Nolan's an interesting one, chat. If he hits, hey, yo. I guess let's see his status here. Is he going to be a guy that actually is able to help impact them this season? Potentially get out on the field there. Suffered a calf. The AI is saying it suffered a calf. Sorry, Walter Nolan. He suffered a calf in training camp. Is expected to miss most of, if not all of, training camp. Sustained a calf injury. Head coach will miss some time. Impact on training camp. I guess. So are we at? I don't know. Chat. We need the more locked-in football fans tell us. If he's on the PUP list now, does that mean he's not going to be able to be there for the start of the season? Can you take him off now and he can still get there for the start? Or if you're on PUP week 1, then you're locked in for the missing the however many set of weeks. And is PUP more aggressive than IR now? Because IR, what, you can revisit it after 4, but PUP is 6. So I guess I don't, who knows the rules? But hopefully he's able to get healthy for him. And what did they say? What was calf strain? Calf injury. I guess did not specify, the exact extent of his absence. So, this calf stuff's not great. But that's a good defensive draft for sure. And we know that they already have, some good offensive pieces in place as well. So maybe Walter Nolan's kind of a next year pick. So would we switch rosters with the Cardinals, I guess, if we were the Colts? I don't know. I guess I'm too biased, chat. But, Marvin Harrison Jr. would be a pretty tempting player to make the trade for. I do love Buckner, though. And then we'd be giving up Quentin Nelson in that swap. We can't do it, chat. Quentin Nelson alone, I guess, Cardinals not quite over the Colts. But again, shout out. Kyler Murray might be a little up high. We would definitely, make a reasonable trade to bring in Kyler Murray. He's up next, chat. Kyler Murray's going to the Colts. Hey, yo. It is what it is. Or Geno, who's really old? Sam Darnold's next stop is the Colts. Maybe Purdy. We'll have to see. We'll just go through the old quarterback. Purdy's not old. But Dak. Maybe, Chad, we're going to have all the Dak stock, and then, he'll be on the Colts, so we better just, keep buying it up. It is what it is. But, yeah, we already do have the Cowboys listed and sliding down the rankings. Do we already say if that should be a prop? We might have said that, again, last time we were discussing Cam Ward. But I guess we can just bet over-unders as well, too. But the Titans to win more games than the Cowboys this year could be a fun bet. I guess we could look at the schedules. Maybe the Cowboys have a better schedule. And again, that's a good offense, but they could potentially put up a lot of points. You got a veteran quarterback with really good receivers as well. There's a baseline there. So the Cardinals, that's substantially higher than the Cowboys, but the high end of Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride versus Pickens and Lamb, it's close, and the Cardinals have a running back as well too. And again, you got Parsons on the Cowboys, so we gotta respect Parsons. We got Parsons and Simons and Max Crosby below everybody on the Cardinals. Might not necessarily be correct, but we'll just see how that plays out for now. Let's go Chicago here real quick as well too. We were talking about Caleb Williams. They've got, like we were saying, Ben Johnson to help upgrade things with Adunze in year 2. DJ Moore. Lamade Zacchaeus. Ayo, shout out our guy. We know that they've been investing in the defensive front 7 as well too. Edmonds-Edwards linebacker combo is definitely good for him last year. They got our guy Adengbo from the Colts in there as a starter as well too. So wait, let's double check this defensive line, because Montez Sweat was definitely one of those guys a couple of years ago. Wait, let me look up Montez Sweat. When they brought him in, it felt like he was, again, you can build a defense that can go to a Super Bowl around this type of edge rushing production. He was at 5.5 sacks in 16 games last year versus 6 sacks in 9 games with Chicago the year before when he got traded, and he was at 12.5 on the year in total. And that has been, his one double-digit season up until this point. So he's been definitely productive. He's been, 7, 9, 5, 8, 12.5, and 5. But really jumped up the 1 year for sure. So I guess that we're locking him in as just, Pro Bowl. I guess, we check his injury history as well, too. But you've got him there. You've got, Passignon? The guy that Passignon wearing number 69. Ayo, still a PFF grade. Look away. Ayo, just look at him in the pads, and then all of a sudden you'll just be like, okay, well, this is the best defensive lineman in the league. But yeah, you got Sweat. Booker is a guy they drafted. I think there was some stock there, 5th round pick, I guess. But I think he was kind of a fun name. Shamar Turner. They've got Turner, their 2nd round pick, and then who was their 1st round pick this year, Chad? Hey, was that part of the trade or whatever that deal was there? Wait a second. Which way did the trade go? They got the pieces in the trade. But then they traded their pick again? I don't even know what the Bears were up to this year. But, yeah, they do have kind of an okay defense as well. Like Sweat, again, the high side. But you got Montez Sweat versus Josh Sweat. Like Josh Sweat did have a better year than Montez as well. And you see the defensive back stuff is similar. I guess Jalen Johnson, shout out, of course, still one of the best corners in the league. So they definitely have the secondary studs there as well, too. But I don't know if their offensive line is necessarily a lot better than the Cardinals. Braxton Jones is definitely good. They did bring in Tooney. That's right. The trade for Tooney will definitely help elevate the rest of the players. But Darnell Wright as well, too. I think Darnell Wright could even take another step forward this year. I hope he continues to get better. I mean, just his athleticism. There's some Penei Sewellness there where it's like, okay, if Sewell figured this out at right tackle eventually, then, Wright can figure this out as well, too. And the dynamic of the possession receiver in a Dunze versus what Moore can create after the catch should definitely help with Caleb Williams. But you got Marvin Harrison on the Cardinals as well, too. So, again, Jalen Johnson, Montez Sweat is definitely some good standout guys to take for the Bears. But I kind of think I would take the Cardinals roster over the Bears as well. And maybe the Raiders as well with Max Crosby. Again, just Max Crosby individually over all these guys. But also Brock Bowers, too. Like, you put Caleb Williams on the Raiders. Would the Bears make that trade with the Raiders? I don't think the Bears fans would be like, again, I think a lot of the stuff is the quarterback stuff right now. So I don't think they would be, bummed out too much if they made that trade. You are definitely losing a little bit in the secondary. That's for sure. So yeah, we got to go Bears over the Raiders at this point. It is what it is. Shout out to our guy, Max Crosby. But still the Cardinals, feisty, hanging out right there. Do we go with the Vikings, chat? Let's go with the Vikings. Our guy, J.J. McCarthy, who we hope can definitely play well this year. And we, know that McConnell's definitely going to give him a chance. And speaking of weapons, I mean, again, you got Addison and Jefferson. I mean, we didn't even say that in the right order. Jefferson and Addison as the studs there to help propel him forward. Hawkinson, of course, and Jones is about as good of an offense as you're going to get into for your first year. The defensive line depth is crazy. The Vikings do sneaky have one of the best rosters in the league. They may be a little, they're definitely going to, be a little heat checky at corner this year for sure. Byron Murphy's definitely a really above average, in a positive way. Like, really, really good corner for sure. Metellus has seemed like he's gotten better every year in the league. You could see that PFF grade actually kind of matching the eye test. It seems like he makes some game-changing plays in every game. Harrison Smith still there, chat. Hey, yo, that would be him. Smith, number 22. But the defensive line is going to... But between the defensive line and Jefferson, like, you think their ability to get pressure, and then even if McCarthy, again, just... I guess even, if we're evaluating with McCarthy, that and then their ability to create after the catch is going to be two things that could... they could win maybe 7 games based on that alone, but 6, 7 games. But if we're just saying quarterback X, obviously this is just a great roster for any quarterback to be in. This may be the best roster in the division. Well, I guess over the Lions as well too. That's where Hutch really is interesting. And I guess Dallas Turner, like if Dallas Turner is awesome and then continues to be awesome, and then that rotation that the Vikings have is maybe that's just more terrifying than one individual. But Hutch is so terrifying. Like he could just take out 3 offensive linemen in one drive. So he almost does the work of, again, the entire, just control ourselves talking about Hutchinson over here. But Hargrave is a great addition to the team. So we'll give the Lions some respect, I guess, and keep them over the Lions. The Niners, Fred Warner, Bosa, the Niners' weapons are definitely not quite the level of the 49ers' weapons. You do get Trent Williams on the Niners as well, too. So the Niners may have just a couple more blue chippers, and again, you're getting a left tackle and a linebacker. The thing would be, those guys, because those guys have been like the best at their position. If they're like the 7th best, 8th best at their spots, then is it as valuable combination of having, Jefferson could be the best receiver in the league, those types of things. But we're still definitely taking, we would make maybe some trades if we were the Vikings and the Colts. That would be for certain. But the Niners, the Vikings definitely do have a little, well, I don't know if they have a little bit more depth, but a little bit more proven because the Niners have that rookie there as well. Screw it, chat. We're going Vikings over the Niners. Jefferson maybe is carrying this one. As not carrying, but, a deciding factor in this as well, too. But still not quite over the Lions. Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, they got their studs. A.J. Brown, obviously, on the Eagles. But McCarthy is in a great spot to hopefully perform well in year 1. Should we go Bills next? We're just bouncing around, chat. It is what it is. Pause. Josh Allen, 3rd in the PFF grade. So there we go. Matching our QB rankings there. I guess... Of course, speaking of the non-QB rosters, maybe this helps proves Allen's ability to elevate as well too. But Allen is a little, and maybe this comparison has been made as well too, but there is a little, James Harden, Luka Doncic type thing with his game where it feels like you'd almost, not that you want the lesser players around him, but there is a sort of dominance that Josh Allen has on the offense. And maybe, like Diggs, of course, is a guy that has a history of maybe, not necessarily being happy with his production in his places, even regardless of how good the quarterback has been. But also, again, Josh Allen is obviously a great quarterback, but a run-heavy guy. And, Buffalo as well, too. Some weather stuff, maybe some games go in certain directions where the passing stuff is not totally there. And Josh Allen is perfect for that. But maybe a certain type of roster, at least offensively, actually benefits him, where again, like certain quarterbacks, does Mahomes needs the best receiver in the league? No, you get to a certain level of quarterback and you don't. But maybe a certain level of receiver that is okay with, again, Josh Allen being sort of an overwhelming offensive presence is also something that benefits Buffalo as well too. Because what do we got? Josh Palmer out here as a, again, not necessarily lighting up the PFF grade boards, but we've got light green grades on everybody, Shakur, Coleman, and Palmer, and Coleman's going to be in year 2. So Coleman could take a step forward as a potential, number 1 guy. Shakur was kind of a go-to guy in a way. Kincaid, you got the tight ends there if they can make their catches. Cook and Allen, the run game is going to continue to be strong. And Oliver and Russo on the defensive line is crazy. And they have Joey Bosa now. Hey, yo. So the Bills had Von Miller. So they're like, which, older defensive lineman are we going to bring in this year? But that could be you get 9 good games out of Joey Bosa at the end of the year, and then he's ready for a playoff run. That could be an interesting addition to the team as well. But honestly, though, like Josh Allen on the Cardinals would be kind of fun. Like, of course, again, Marvin Harrison Jr., that'd be I think, again, they'd probably make that work. I'm assuming that Marvin Harrison Jr. would be kind of happy with Josh Allen. Not saying that he's not happy with Kyler Murray, obviously. But Russo and Oliver are, again, good. The defensive line focus for the Bills is good because of the nitty-gritty situations that they get in, being in Buffalo. So does this Arizona team. Again, it's built with the outside linebackers, and it's a little, like, situationally, I don't know if it is, like, built for Buffalo, but talent-wise, it is pretty close. And again, the way the secondary has the upside there. And maybe we're just really putting a lot of stock in Will Johnson as well, too. But if we're taking the quarterbacks off the tables, I do think that the Arizona offense is and the Buffalo defense does get elevated. I think the coaching staff does elevate it as well too, because there is a ability for them to replace some of the production with, they just kind of bring some guys in as well too that they've had. So the Cardinals are going to end up with the 10th best team in the league this year. The Bills over the Colts, Chad. The Colts are, like we say, we're sneaky going to be like in the top 12 as well too. If Josh Allen was on the Colts though, I mean, and again, he's in a dome in Indy, so that would be crazy. Like, you'd be like, oh man, Chad, now, the fantasy of that. It is what it is. But we're going Bills right under the Colts, and that just, again, shows you the elevation of Josh Allen. That it's just like, okay, the Bills Super Bowl chances are way up here, and the Colts Super Bowl chances are way down there. But I would think that is not too far off, because I don't think I would necessarily trade, the talent, the players, Ed Oliver for Buckner. I mean, they're similar enough ages as well, too, that it wouldn't make sense to do like a timeline reset in some type of way. Rousseau's a little bit closer. Yeah, he is 25, so his edge production, he's pretty good for sure. But we do have some good depth as well. And like Latu, I would take, I still have some good Latu stock. What pay, like we said. So that's where we'll put Buffalo. But for another NFC team, Chad, let's go. Should we go the Saints? I feel like we've been putting teams up the rankings. Let's see where we go with the Saints. But once again, it is the non-QB roster. So right now, we still got Spencer Rattler projected as the starter. 42 out of 42 on the PFF grade. Okay, we're not going to IT cut that out. That's tough. But Olave healthy. Shaheed, this is one that, and maybe it is the quarterbacks, but it does feel like concussion central for the Saints receivers. Yeah, Brandon Cooks and Olave are going to lead the league in concussions this year. Unfortunately, it is what it is. They've been looking and investing in their offensive line, though I don't think it's quite paid off in a way. Cesar Ruiz, though, he's good. Shout out. He is a stud. But Fuaga, the first-round pick from last year over at right tackle, I guess him taking a step forward this year could definitely be there. You still got some studs. Brise was looking. Oh, Brise didn't play well in the PFF grade. I feel like Brise was making plays, Chad. Maybe, he was getting pushed off of spots and the other times, but I feel like there's some good Brise plays in there where he can bounce back. They weren't running like a random Sunday night. I mean, they probably were, but, they were running like some random piece on Brise after he made some plays. I feel like they definitely were. Their secondary was sneaky productive at times last year for sure. Yadim is one of those kind of, you sort the advanced stats in the right way. You could get good production out of him. You got Kool-Aid in year 2. Could be good. That's a guy that could be like a star, but that could be a really good player on a team that's kind of buried. I don't know if you could trade for him in year 2, but, Olave, McKinstry, there could be some interesting pieces here. Kamara. Again, we're going non-QB roster. Would the Cowboys trade with the Saints right now? You're not, I don't think you're upgrading the receivers necessarily. You are getting Kamara, so that is something. But I think the Cowboys' O-line is better. And again, at this point, you still have Parsons, whatever the contract stuff is. I think the defense with Bland and, you get Diggs back healthy. I do think we found a team, chat. The Cowboys, okay. They're not going over the Cowboys. And I think, the Titans definitely over the Saints. I would feel confident in saying that as well. So shout out to Saints fans. It is what it is. You guys are looking for Arch Manning next year. Speaking of teams that were looking at Arch Manning, the Cleveland Browns. Shador. I think Flacco did get named the starter. He's listed here. So we'll see. Over under, is there a prop? Which week Shador starts? So Myles Garrett makes this a top 10 roster in the league. You get one of the best defensive tackles there. It is unfortunately a little tough at receiver this year, not going to lie. Jerry Jeudy. What do we got? Cedric Tillman here? Okay, Cedric Tillman's not bad. Shout out. Thrash. I don't know who Jamari Thrash is. Hopefully, maybe a sleeper in fantasy. Who knows? The running back, of course, without Nick Chubb. They've had some guys where like, okay, I feel like I get some waiver wire production out of this guy. But then the team, it just feels like the run game hasn't been as effective as Nick Chubb, though. And again, Nick Chubb was like 25 points a week in fantasy versus some of these Brown waiver wire guys are like 12, but 11. So, it's like, okay, I'm getting the production, but again, it's like, are the Browns actually benefiting here? So you bring in Mason Graham, continue to invest in the defensive line. You do have, again, a really good strength there as well. And both of the lines definitely still pretty solid paws. And you'd hope that the defensive backs continue to play well. But I do think that the Cowboys would, again, keep their... You're still... The Parsons-Garrett thing is close. And are you switch... Like, I guess is Jerry Jones having to pay the Garrett contract at this point if they make the trade. So he's like, okay, we'll trade everybody, but I'm going to keep Micah Parsons. I still want to have a guy on a holdout. It just is what it is. He's like, I got Mason Graham on a rookie contract. Why do I need Myles Garrett? And, Jerry Jones would definitely think that as well, too. Devin Bush, shout out our guy, hanging out over in Cleveland as well, too. But I think that the Cowboys are still better than the Browns, Titans, Raiders. I'm still feeling Bears, Cardinals. Yeah, I'm still feeling pretty good about all of those teams as well, too. I guess, do we go Seattle? Let's go Seattle next. And another NFC West team, I guess, with 3 out of 4 NFC West teams at this point. The Cup thing is interesting because I think he could be their wide receiver. I guess probably not the 3. I guess MVS probably not going to be their wide receiver 2. But JSN is definitely going to be their wide receiver 1. I don't know if that's being reflected in the fantasy stuff right now. Can we get like a fantasy ADP for 2025 at this point and see where our guy JSN is being drafted? Where's ESPN at, chat? Hey, yo. I don't know why we can't just get a basic one. Okay, Yahoo. I mean, shout out to all the other fantasy websites, but I just want one from like an actual where people are actually doing the drafts. Even though I feel like the people are still getting their stats from all, basically the same place. And I feel like when I did look at it a couple of weeks ago, I thought I did see one with JSN kind of up there a little ways. Oh, Bucky Irving, chat. Hey, yo. Looks like he's climbing up the rankings here. Okay, here we go. Basic ADP, all drafts. Trying to figure out how they had it sorted here. Bucky Irving going in the top 20. I guess he was really good at the end of last year over Josh Allen. Ladd McConkey, Kyron Williams back. Shout out Kittle going in the top 30 almost still. So JSN below Kittle? Barely. There he is, 33. James Cook at 32. So wait here, let's go just the receivers and see what we've got. They've got JSN behind T. Higgins, Ladd McConkey. Yeah, A.J. Brown, Drake London, Brian Thomas, Puka Nacua, Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra. Yeah, I mean, you got some pretty stacked group of names there. And regardless, for fantasy-wise, it's not like they need him to be top 5 for them to be a good team. But he could be a sleeper breakout guy in that category for sure, depending on what Darnold does at quarterback as well, too. But the secondary is strong. They've, of course, continued to kind of lock down some of these defensive line guys. So it is one of those things where as you're kind of trading in and bringing in pieces and guys are expiring on contracts, you're like, oh, this is kind of a fun collection of guys. And then, it's like, okay, we lock it in for the next 4 years. It's like, is this the team we want to have? But Leonard Williams had 4th on the PFF grade. I guess he's been really taking steps up as well, too, in Seattle. Is this DeMarcus Lawrence on the edge over here? DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Nwosu, Jaron Reed. Yeah, chat, the Seahawks defense is going to be pretty good. Witherspoon, chat, I don't know, would the Colts trade their team for the Seahawks team at this point? I do think our collection of receivers is better. I'd rather have the 4 receivers, the 4, the younger guys that I would feel confident in versus just JSN at that point. Kenneth Walker, Taylor's a little bit more reliable than Kenneth Walker, just from a health standpoint. Our line, again, the secondary would be the one thing, but it's basically Buckner versus Witherspoon. At this point, would I rather have Buckner or Witherspoon? I do love Witherspoon, chat. Ayo, pause. He's a great player. But we got to put the Seahawks in front of the Bills. I don't know. They do kind of have that balance on the defensive line. The Bills do have a little better defensive line, but the Seahawks with a little better secondary. And JSN's probably a better weapon at this point than anybody that you have. James Cook over Kenneth Walker, though. James Cook's probably going to play more games, though. Yeah, when Kenneth Walker plays, he's definitely a better running back, and maybe a better pass catcher. I don't know. There's a little check down thing with James Cook that can be nice at times. But that's actually a really close one. This one's a stumper, chat. Bills versus Seahawks. The Josh Allen boost might just get the Bills roster over them at this point. But JSN could be the best player on offense. Again, a good offensive line. Charles Cross, yeah, he's playing pretty well, chat. Hey, yo, it might be the Seahawks. And again, I don't know if it's a coaching thing for the way they play this year. So I don't think I would trade spots with the Seahawks quite yet. Again, everybody healthy. So the Colts a top 5 roster in the league. But the Seahawks are definitely up there as well, too. Should we go the Chiefs now, chat? Let's get Sam's team off the board here. Let's get the Chiefs in the mix. Let's see what we've got. Of course, Chris Jones, still a stud. Creed Humphrey, still a stud. You're going to get Rashee Rice back as well, too. Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. So that is not bad. Again, that definitely gets the Mahomes boost. I don't know, like I'm saying, individually, I think I'm fine with our receiving core. I don't know if yours like a massive upgrade either way. I think it's like, okay, the health and some of the off-the-field stuff of the Colts guys, like, we'll just take our chances. And to be honest, again, I like some of the attacking down-the-field sides versus the Chiefs with the smaller, speedy guys. It works as well, too. Obviously, if you have Mahomes. But Tyler Warren over Travis Kelce, Chad? I don't know. 2025? It is close. But between McDuffie, Chris Jones, I guess he was the number 1 graded as well, too. I'm not debating it. I guess, again, as well, too, Dexter Lawrence always finishes really high in those grades as well. But with him and Karlaftis and McDuffie on defense, and Chanel and the linebackers are so I think that their roster is of course better than the Colts roster. Hot take. And it does seem like their left tackle pick is a potential workout pick for them as well too. Though I don't know if it is better than the Vikings, but the youth of it, especially again like Karlaftis and McDuffie, the 49ers don't really have that next generation type guys on defense quite yet. Again, maybe Williams turns into that type of guy this year, but just from what we've seen, again, McDuffie and Karlaftis a little bit better, and just a little bit, the linebackers, I don't know if they're better for sure than the 49ers with Warner and stuff as well. But if their left tackle is 80% of Trent Williams this year, then you still have Creed Humphrey on the offensive line. And again, it's not like the 49ers receivers, if Ayuk is a little bit iffy, or a lock to be one of the top groups in the league as well too. But you might take Kittle over Kelce at this point. So I would personally still take the Chiefs. That would be basically probably a Fred Warner versus Chris Jones, or maybe a Fred Warner. Maybe I'm taking McDuffie at this. I'm just taking McDuffie between those two rosters and saying that type of stud and Chris Jones and the offensive line pieces, and just kind of figure it out from there. But that would still put them behind the Vikings, Lions, and Eagles. Yeah, that would feel right. And then Mahomes elevating that roster a little bit above. And again, if they end up with like a top 5-6 roster in the league, you're like, yeah, with Mahomes, we're good to go. Like, that's totally fine. Andy Reid will be right there in the playoff mix. So do we go Washington, chat? Let's go with another top quarterback in the league. Our guy, Jaden Daniels, where you've got, again, speaking of linebackers, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu. You get a full season of Marshawn Lattimore. We'll see if he finishes the season on Washington this year. He may be back in the trade cycle. They did get a really good rookie year from Sandstrom last year. So we'll see if he takes a step up, or if teams are, if he levels out. We'll just see what his season is like in year 2. And they had a rerun game on at work today on one of the TVs over the bar. And it was the Monday night game of Washington versus Cincinnati. And they were showing that game from last year, again, a graphic about Terry McLaurin from last offseason requesting a trade. And I was like, oh, yeah. So the Commanders will probably be fine with Terry McLaurin this year. I do think Debo on this team, again, Daniels is probably the best quarterback that Debo's ever played for. And you're going, the Shanahan system has been great. They've been in Super Bowls. The lack of success and stats haven't necessarily been in there. But the individual talent stuff, Daniels is probably the best one. And he's now the number 2 receiver behind McLaurin. So Ertz is, we'll see if they can, if they need to figure something out at tight end at some point as well, too. And Eckler, they're a little old at some of the spots as well, too. I don't know if it's a pause or not. But wait, who's Miller, number 24? Oh, Von Miller is here. That's number 24? Hey, yo. Shout out Von Miller. Dorrance Armstrong, Kinlaw, Payne, Wise. So, again, a veteran, above average roster with guys I think that are underrated for taking a step forward, like Sandstrom as well. But it does feel like you really know what you're getting with this team. So if it would just continue for Daniels to, be one of those top 5 quarterbacks to continue to elevate this team. So I don't know if are the Commanders going to be sneaky kind of low on the list? The Raiders? Would we rather have the Raiders or the Commanders, chat? Hey, yo. We get, Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers versus McLaurin and, whoever you want to have as weapon. Like, I guess our guy Debo. How much stock are we selling at this point? He's still our guy. And then, like we're saying, Kuntz and Crosby versus maybe a nice, solid rotation pause for the Commanders. And then maybe a better linebacker core. And I do like Martin as well, too, the safety. Harris, number 3. Will Harris? Okay, Will Harris, I feel like has had some good years in there. But I feel like I kind of sneaky would go with the Raiders. You do bring in Tunsil, who is a good addition to the offensive line for sure. So just Jaden Daniels, more protection year 2 is, again, the big focus. But you get Colton Miller, who is still able to hold down that left tackle spot. Maybe a little more balance on the offensive line, though, again, it's still not bad. It's not great, I guess, for Washington. But I honestly think that I would go with the Raiders. Jaden Daniels on the Raiders, chat? Hey, yo. Do we double check? We're pulling the Raiders back up one more. Are we actually taking this team? But I don't know. My mind's not changing every time I look into it. Maybe I have to keep remembering the safeties as well, too, are a little unproven. But who knows? I feel like Carrell can get some production out of these guys. I do like Chin as well. So the secondary is going to be a little tough. I would probably rather have Sandstrom, and you do have some veterans there as well, too. But it is close. And Thornton, the rookie, Dante Thornton out of Tennessee. I mean, with Geno, you could, a good pro. And you get Ginty as well, too. So, yeah, Chow, we might go with the Raiders over the Commanders. Hey, yo. Like, Ginty might be a sneaky... Oh, wait, we have them with the Cardinals. And the Bears? Yeah, so that's like Montez Sweat, Moore, Adunze. Yeah, Chad, so Caleb Williams' situation is his roster better than the Commanders, but still Commanders better value because of Jaden Daniels. Hey, yo, shout out. So, see, it's helping you figure some stuff out, I guess, just for the quarterbacks and, just trying to mentally get everything shuffled through. But do we go Green Bay next with Jordan Love? Let's see here. Again, like we said, we really valued, LaFleur's ability to get production in the regular season. McKinney was a breakout guy the last year for them. You get him from New York as well, too. But that was a pretty crazy move. He hasn't been there 2 seasons now. Has he, chat? Let's double check and see. Yeah, so last year, and I guess the PFF grade, was really good in New York in 2023, I was going to say, but I didn't remember that translating for the Pro Bowl, All-Pro type stuff as well. But he did, of course, get that first team All-Pro selection last year as that safety spot for the Packers. So you do have a stud there. But they did release Jair Alexander in a little bit of a surprise move. You get Van Ness taking a step forward. Gary, Kenny Clark is still not bad for sure. I do like Romeo Dobbs as receiver. I think Jaden Reed's pretty good as well too. And they still have Christian Watson, right? I don't know if he's probably just, unfortunately not healthy. It seems to be a little bit of a trend. Okay, Christian Watson's still on the roster, so you get him back again if he's there playoff run, end of the season type stuff. I don't know if that's at this point the fantasy frustration. We're kind of just he's kind of more end of a draft guy, just somebody take a flyer and then you have him on whoever wants to be patient and have him on their bench. At this point, Marshawn Lloyd as the running back too, so they do have that depth there at running back as well. But I do think they lack a little star potential, and I think that was the I guess outside of McKinney as well too. And that's Jordan Love continuing to elevate. Maybe Dobbs ascends as like a 12th best receiver in the league type production wise guy. But I think that was the Alexander piece, and again I didn't see all the story behind that and what led to that move. But he was a guy that could hit star levels at a given time. So I guess so can Gary, maybe Kenny Clark at times too. But it's sort of other guys pop in every now and then. Pause. So I do like the overall depth of the team for sure. Again, I don't know. Our Colts are kind of the cutoff here. There's a little bit of a teardrop, between the Colts and the 49ers at this point. With the teams that we have gone through, would Josh Allen be better on the Packers? Not divisions, conferences, withstanding. That's a close one, Chad, because Gary versus Russo is not too far off, I think. Best version of Gary. You do have some good depth here along the defensive line. You get McKinney in the secondary as probably your best option. And again, Josh Allen can probably make it work with these receivers and a really good running back like Josh Allen as well too. So the Bills were right there with the Seahawks secondary, and then the Colts as well too. So are Packers versus Colts. Maybe the Colts are just like a team that you guys have to disregard in this conversation. But again, in non-QB rosters, I think it's definitely not too invalid where we have them at. Yeah, Chad, I think we're going one spot behind the Colts, but they're better than the Seahawks at this point. No, I think I would still take the Seahawks. You get JSN, like we're saying, their defensive line is sort of there is some similar talent there with maybe some better higher end production. Maybe again, at least last year, Gary 2 years ago, maybe better than Leonard Williams. I don't know. So, these teams sort of back to back close is not the worst thing in the world as well. So, do we need to get another team in here above the Colts? Hey, yo, Chad, let's get the Ravens just on the list. It is what it is. Let's get them officially listed. Kyle Hamilton still there with Smith, leading that defense is pretty crazy. Flowers is a guy 16th on the PFF ratings. It would maybe one more step forward would be nice for him as well too. But what do they have? DeAndre Hopkins. So is that just him bringing in some Chiefs plays? He was on the Chiefs last year. That could be some good, Trojan horse type stuff. He goes to the Chiefs and then to the Ravens and helps Lamar out. The tight end combo. At some point, maybe somebody trades for Likely and just gives him a number one starting job. Is he still there? Yeah, Chad. Or, this is the year that it happens. But, as long as they still have all those weapons and the defense is still there. And I like Starks as well, too. They always draft well. Starks, the safety, is a veteran guy that can step in and play really well because, again, with Hamilton, he gets to kind of focus on coverage stuff because Hamilton gets to take care of so much stuff in the front seven. And I don't know how much they're actually going to, how much game planning stuff they task Hamilton with. But again, just the way he flies around, he covers so much ground that, just in real life, there's just going to be less field for him to worry about because he's playing next to Hamilton and some of these other studs as well, too. Because of the way, of course, they man up, you do. Oh, they got Jair? Oh, whoa. Whoa, chat. Again, Jair 2025. I feel like it's one of those things where we see this time and time again. The guy gets cut and goes to the team and does play well. There may be a season. I'm not saying he's going to play well for the next 5 years, 8 years. But could he play well next year on the Ravens? Sure. Absolutely. Him and Marlon Humphrey and this system is good for him as well too. Maybe he demanded a cut to go to the Ravens. Maybe I should have looked into the story for that reason. Matabuke, I feel like could get back to the level of maybe like a second team All-Pro type guy as well. So wait a second here. Do we go Ravens over the Vikings? Definitely over the Chiefs, for sure. I think we would make that trade. Though I think the Chiefs do kind of like their team. And again, McDuffie, Karlaftis, and Chris Jones is a stud combo. So McDuffie versus Hamilton, and then you're going Matabuke versus Karlaftis, Chris Jones versus Matabuke versus Owe. What do we got? Chris Jones versus Matabuke, Owe versus Karlaftis. Then we've got Jair in the mix as well too. You know what, chat? Would I go with the Chiefs roster over the Ravens roster? I would seem like they're, you would just feel like the Ravens would be the better team. It'd be one of those situations where, again, Mahomes is kind of elevating a little bit. 3rd overall team grade in 2025. And you do, have Derrick Henry with it. I assume he's still going to be, 1,100 yards, if not still an amazing 1,500-yard guy next year, whatever. What was he? Number 1 running back? So he was also, again, a 94-1 grade. That's his best season by far on the PFF grade. So even if he is in that 90.1 range instead of just the best player in the league as well, like he's just best player in the league last year. It's crazy stuff as, again, a 30-year-old running back. So I'm not doubting his ability to be one of the best in the league next year. I'm just saying if him and, if he's not top 2 and then Lamar's not top, obviously Lamar will probably be top 3 again as well too, for sure. But if Henry's also not 2 in that same type of way, then, are we going to get, would you just rather have the rest of the guys that the Chiefs defense has as well? Chiefs defense versus Ravens defense? I might take the Chiefs, even though that other cornerback spot is tough, but you're getting a little better front 7 stuff. And then Spags, if we're including Spags and his ability to dial up pressure in the right moment, then obviously that is an invaluable thing to have listed on there as well too. But my gut's telling me to go with the Chiefs, Chad. It is what it is. I don't know if I'm going results based. I don't think I would put them over the Vikings. I do think their secondary is better, but that Vikings front 7 is terrifying. And again, we're going all rosters, so the Vikings weapons as well too have to be included. I mean, Jefferson, obviously, you have to mention him. So Addison as well. I mean, Addison, best version of Addison could legitimately have a case to be the best Ravens receiver, as and Zay Flowers is in the mix as well. I'm just saying best version of Jordan Addison could be in the mix as well. But I would have assumed I would have gone Ravens over Chiefs. I'm gonna go to Chiefs over Ravens, and that would have them still, the Chiefs, as the number 1 AFC non-QB roster at this point. So I'm definitely projecting the Mahomes effect onto them as well. But let's go with the Giants, chat. New York, unfortunately, probably won't be contending for the Chiefs spot on the rankings, but we know their defensive line is stacked. And you do have Malik Neighbors as a stud. I think Tyrone Tracy, 56 out of 59 on the PFF rating. That's crazy. I did see a highlight of Russell Wilson throwing a deep pass, and it was like, okay, with the down the field stuff of some of these Giants receivers, that is interesting, but also Neighbors can take a screen, to the house as well too. So that front 7 and Neighbors, if Wilson can at least bring a diversity to the offense that maybe Daniel Jones wasn't, then they could definitely be competitive. And again, that defensive line, just as a starting point to build a team, is about as solid of a foundation as you're going to get. I don't think, again, it has the completeness of like the Seahawks or the Bills, but as a unit, I think the Giants unit, again, that defensive line unit could be arguably the best unit in the league. So that's going to really carry a lot of weight as well, too. If you're just saying one unit alone could be so dominant, it really could make up for the rest of the team. Like, I honestly would really consider, again, a Colts trade as well, too, just to be like, wait, we get all those guys. And, like, there's neighbors. There's a couple other pieces scattered around there as well, too. Again, maybe you lose a little consistency with the O-line in there. And, again, so, like, Colts, Seahawks, Packers, they all do have good running backs as well, too, to help elevate that quarterback game. But the Bills is really interesting. Josh Allen again. Josh Allen on the Giants. Ayo, Chet. Not even a good New York, not even a long move. Ayo. I don't know, him and Haley Steinfeld, chat, just getting settled into married life. Ayo. I don't know if they have to, they don't have to uproot to go play for the Giants. I mean, Haley Steinfeld already probably got a New York apartment around there. Ayo. To try to, some kind of townhouse, penthouse situation already in the mix. They just hang out there. Or they probably already got a situation that will work to go play for the Giants, living in Buffalo, or even not living in Buffalo, just being famous people and rich celebrities. But the secondary, like we're saying, is definitely going to be a question mark. I do hope I have some Deontay Banks stock, so I do hope that he takes a step forward this year. And Paulson Adebo is a guy that can hold down a number one corner spot as well. Again, is he going to be a guy that's going to be the best cornerback in the league? But he can be he'll compete against the team's best receiver, and that could allow Deontay Banks a little leeway to definitely try to continue to get better in there as well. McFadden is a playmaker at linebacker. Newbin and Holland at safeties. Oh, Javon Holland. Ayo, shout out. Okay. So we got a Javon Holland, and what's this, Tyler Newbin? Yeah, shout out. The second round pick is definitely, again, a veteran with that front seven. It's going to be a pretty good safety duo for him there. So we can complement the defense all day. But between the offensive line and, Robinson and Slayton and Tracy, who do we got at tight end? Theo Johnson, 4th round pick in 2024. There is a little bit of a drop off in some of the weapons. Andrew Phillips, slot corner, though, not a bad grade on him. Not a bad player as well. Let's see here. They're not going to, like we're saying, compete with some of these other teams, but maybe. So we did have the Cardinals, Bears, I guess Raiders. So yeah, Giants, again, we're really debating the strength of the defensive line unit, I guess, versus some of these other rosters. The Commanders, I guess, would the Commanders switch their team with the Giants and put Jaden Williams or Jaden Daniels on the Giants? I don't think so, because Sandstrom, again, you got good front seven pieces. Maybe it's not going to be as elite, but the overall depth of the Commanders, and McLaurin versus Neighbors going forward, again, is definitely a guy that could be a top 10 receiver in the league next year. Absolutely. But with a good quarterback, again, McLaurin is definitely an elite weapon. So because of the defensive line, they probably go over the Titans, and they're over the Cowboys then, I guess, as well, too. So Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, you're trading, and Micah Parsons, you're trading them for Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence and all of the defensive linemen as well, but you're also getting Neighbors back as a... So if you're thinking this, what strengths and weaknesses are you switching out? The strength of having Parsons, you're still getting defensive line. The strength of having receivers, you're still getting Neighbors. And you don't have a running back. Again, you're maybe losing a little bit on the offensive line to bulk up the defensive line. So I think right in front of the Titans, Cam Ward and the Giants, they feel like kind of equal spots as well. And again, the Titans have some question marks with the veterans on the secondary as well, too. So let's go. We got a lot of, we got the Giants, the Commanders, and the Cowboys all near the bottom, and the Eagles at the top. So again, the quarterback stuff like Jaden Williams or Jaden Daniels. Hey, I don't know why I keep saying Jaden Williams. Jaden Daniels, we assume, will elevate that Commanders roster. But again, the Eagles, of course, are separating themselves from the other teams in that division. Do we go another AFC South team? Let's get the Jags off the board here as well with Trevor Lawrence. Bringing in Travis Hunter of course, and Brian Thomas is the upside of that duo as receivers is absolutely crazy. ETN is, I think, a sleeper there for if he gets healthy and back on track, could be a productive guy as well too. There is, I think, maybe some real Walker Little's not bad, but I guess we'll see here. I was gonna say, I'm not necessarily recognizing a ton of names as standout guys. So we'll see if this is able to produce as a good offensive line. But between Josh Allen, Aluakon, again, they do have some studs as well. But they don't have the depth in the single unit the way that I guess maybe out the receivers of the Jags versus the defensive line of the Giants. But again, Neighbors provides a lot of value in that unit as well too. Is this De'Ami Brown out here? Okay, you do have some more speed and stuff on the outside. Like, he can definitely be a wide receiver 3. Absolutely. And again, you do have Eric Armstead. Okay, so you do have good depth. Some good players on the defensive line as well too. We're not fearing the Jags over the Colts. And to be honest, Jags over the Titans is interesting. Aluakon, Hines, Hunter Thomas, they do have maybe a talent more spread out, and their offense could be a little bit better as well too. Tyson Campbell was I think a really good season 2 years ago. So if he's back on that track as well, I don't know if his best version of a corner season is better than anybody the Giants have. I don't think this roster is better than the Commanders roster. And we had the Giants, right under the Commanders. So it's Giants, Jags, Titans, Cowboys. So again, speaking of lower teams, we got a couple of AFC South teams down here. Would we take the Browns over the Jags? Would we take Garrett? We remember their receiver unit and the rest of the weapons, the running backs. As great as Garrett is, you get Josh Allen and Travis Hunter. You do get some blue chippers on the Jags. And you do get those defensive line guys on the Giants as well, too, along with, like we're saying, Neighbors, some of the other guys. So let's go Jags over Titans. And again, I guess you can't take Travis Hunter and Cam Ward potentially in the same draft. But regardless, so I guess if Cam Ward was playing with, Travis Hunter, that'd obviously be a better scenario for him. But Cam Ward with Brian Thomas as well, too. Brian Thomas is a better receiver than anybody the Titans have as well. So a couple better defenders, a couple better offensive players, but Titans' offensive line could be slightly better, too. So we go Carolina, Bryce Young. Speaking of these young guys, young quarterbacks that need to have good years this year, their weapons are scary, Chad. I think that there is a get off the bus factor with them between especially Leggett and McMillan. Like, there is some size there. Leggett can create after the catch, and McMillan can create down the field. Thielen's just a veteran guy. Sanders, we saw him be a pretty... I know that grade's not great, but I think eye test-wise, he played pretty well for him, for sure, last year. Chua Hubbard's another sneaky, can really, again, hold down that RB1 spot, not just from a fantasy perspective, as well, in a real-life way. They are waiting for Derek Brown to get back from injury, so you get him back on the defensive line. You're hoping J.C. Horn continues to get better. And Moyrig, you bring in Moyrig on defense. Of course, we got some Moyrig stock. Nick Scott as the other safety as well. But they are a little limited. I do kind of like their offense a little better than their defense, which is maybe kind of scary for them. But it did feel like their defense was overperforming last year. Scorton is a fun second-round pick. Is that one of those Texas A&M edge guy? Could be a good producer for them. So they would definitely need to sort of overachieve from the talent on paper. But yeah, I don't know if I'm taking the Panthers over the Titans. Again, maybe the vibes if Bryce Young's a little bit more veteran year 2, everybody's kind of locked in. The offensive line could be good with a Conwu as well too. And like I was saying, I do like Leggett and McMillan. I sneaky really do like them. Maybe I don't know how much I like it for fantasy again with Bryce Young, but on the field of that I do like it. And I don't know if I've said that enough. And I don't know if they would need one more number one guy to quite elevate those two, but it is a fun duo, just again as a something to work with and a building blocks for something going forward as well. I think Parsons and CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith probably carrying the Cowboys over the Panthers at this point. The Titans as well too. Do we go Panthers over Cowboys? You get Derek Brown back. He's not quite Micah Parsons. I mean, shout out to Derek Brown. He's really good, obviously. But Parsons is arguably the best in the league. So, unfortunately, we'll go Panthers under the Cowboys, but I do think they are vibes-wise. I'm feeling better about the Panthers this year than I would say I have good vibes about the Panthers compared to the Cowboys, and definitely better than the Browns as well too, even though again we're rooting for our guy Shador on that list as well. So let's go let's see. We just did what? NFC team. Yeah, let's go Steelers here with A-Rod, who I know that A-Rod is setting himself up for a tough year this year, but I will say this from the Steelers' perspective, and I guess I haven't given a ton of fantasy insight here tonight, but I do think Metcalf is going to have a good fantasy year this year. I could see a ton of dump-offs, a PPR league, a ton of catches, Rodgers just feeding his guy. If they do get red zone spots, Freiermuth, maybe sneaky touchdowns if they get in the red zone in some way. And I did see a stat. I guess Najee Harris is on the Chargers as well too, but it's making me think about it now that he's on he was on the Steelers. He was the only running back to run for like 1,000 yards each of the last 4 or 5 seasons. So again, the Chargers have some guys in that running back room, but maybe that's like a don't be totally scared or keep an eye, at least add him to the watch list type of ordeal if he's going undrafted. But what do you got? Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay as your cornerback group is kind of scary. I mean, we know that front seven is pretty legit as well too. And again, I know the Rodgers thing is maybe tainting how we view the receivers, and the offensive line stuff in training camp has looked brutal as well too. I'm not gonna lie. So unfortunately, maybe that's the one thing that hurts the Metcalf fantasy game. It's not just Rodgers, it's like the combination of the pressure and the accuracy and just all the things combined. It is what it is. What do we got? Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin is a interesting 1-2 behind Metcalf. Pause. Hey yo, whoa. But that defense is obviously crazy and is going to be able to keep them in a lot of games. So their defense right now is, of course, better than the Colts defense. And you do have, again, like TJ Watt and some studs on there. I do think the Colts defense, the age of that, I'm not saying I would switch everybody long term, but this year it is probably a trade you would have to make, the Colts defense for the Steelers defense. But I don't think you would trade the Colts non-QB offense for the Steelers non-QB offense. I would still take that. So Seahawks, we did say that they had balance in JSN. It really becomes an offensive line debate at this point. So I think maybe, again, the Raiders back in the case, the Bears versus them as well too. I don't know, Chad. I don't know. Let's see. We've got McCormick, Frazier, Somalia, Samalu. Hey yo. I mean, I guess Tyler Warren now for Jalen Warren. Hey yo, Tyler Warren on the Colts. Shout out. Jalen Warren fully slated to start at the running back spot is a good thing for the people that have been waiting for that in the fantasy circles as well. But I think, would you take them over the Bills? I think the Cardinals at this point, but the Cardinals have a good offensive line. So do the Bears. So that does get us back to the Raiders, honestly. So let's go with the Steelers. And then the Commanders do have a good balance on offense as well too. But I think the high end of the Steelers defense would probably, like Jaden Daniels on the Steelers, his ability to avoid some of that pressure maybe would help him as well too. And then that defense keeping games close would obviously be great. So let's go. I think I would rather have a little bit more offensive line upside like the Bears have. And to be honest, Chad, screw it. I'd rather have the Raiders. I just shout out. We really love the 17th best Raiders roster in the league. It is what it is. So let's go Steelers over the Commanders, but under the Raiders. Pause. And then we will get the, let's see here. Let's go with the, what's a good one, chat? Hey, well, not a good one, but another one that needs to happen. The Rams. Let's go with the Rams here real quick, because I do like the potential of this Rams defense to take a big step forward with the young talent on the defensive line. Like we were saying, Stafford's age and his ability to continue to produce is, of course, going to be a question mark for the overall competitiveness of the team. But the weapons are great as well, too. And, you replace Devontae Adams for Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams. I think it does change the dynamic of the offense a little bit in a way that is fun when you have Puka Nacua as the other receiver to have kind of the big outside guys. And Tutu Atwell's a good slot guy. And like we said, Kyron Williams can be that McVay lead back. Definitely get the stats. So the Rams defense is another one. I really do like the talent of that defensive front. I've got some Cameron Curl stock as well. Darius Williams, I guess not great on the PFF grade for the corners, but I feel like their corners did play well when they needed to in certain moments. So their defensive line is definitely not better than the Giants, but their offensive line might be. Their secondary might have a little bit more upside, but it is close as well too. I think they're probably actually below the Steelers, though again, their defensive line, and maybe the youth of it is healthier as well too. Again, that's of course, like we're saying, always going to be a factor in the overall result of the season. But the on-team talent, I would still take a Steelers bet at this point. And you do get Metcalf, but Nacua is a real stud. And so, imagine putting the Rams below the Giants, chat. Hey, yo, that'd be another one I didn't see happening. But I think I probably would take the risk of the offensive line and just work on building that up next. Hey, yo, we've got Jackson Dart in there to be the franchise guy. I guess we're not ranking quarterbacks as well, too. But let's get the Rams on here, chat, and just see how that gets the list looking. So I think is that 20, chat? That might be the number we were going. Oh, 23. We got some honorable mention teams in here as well too. The Colts, the 7th best roster in the league. Hey, yo, we gotta continue to add a couple more of the teams on, I guess, as well too. But let's see here, chat. We are running long. Hey, yo, pause on the live stream tonight. It is what it is. Do we just have to just fire up the Friday live stream and just start there and finish putting these teams on a list while we react to albums? That may be how it goes, chat. Hey, yo, because it is what it is. Like we said, we might be running out of time here tonight. So we'll just end it now while the Colts are still a top 10 team. Non-QB rise. Eagles probably not going to be dethroned. Vikings up there as well, too. Chiefs, of course, looking like they're right back in the Super window with Pat Mahomes. But, yeah, we'll be live Friday, Che. We've got albums. We've got more rankings to do. It is what it is. We'll be here having fun, figuring this out, because the week after next is going to be crazy, of course, schedule-wise with, we got the big wedding next week, chat. Hey, yo, shout out our guy Sam as well, too. We are looking forward to that. So, stay tuned to the YouTube. Stuff is getting fun over here. We're going live. You can follow us here while we're live. You can follow the live streams later on the podcast platforms, of course. They go up on Spotify, Apple, and all the different platforms you can find over there. And if you want to send a message, you can hit us up on the DMs at RemingtonSamPod on Instagram as well, too. So, yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys Friday, chat, to see how the rest of the list turns out. There's a couple of other stands that I think I want to take for the NFL season. A couple other quarterbacks that I have some stock in that I think could have some good years as well, too. At least we hope from our stock standpoint that is the way that it turns out. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys later this week, Friday night, as we hit the live streams reacting to our guy Big X the Plug with an album. What do we got? Kid Cudi, Offset, chat. It's gonna be crazy, and more teams to rank. Hey yo, stay tuned. It's gonna be fun. But for now, chat, enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your good couple of days. before we see you, and